Jiang Ming has just awakened to a new life in the Jiuyang Sect, free from worldly burdens, but a hidden elder from the Yinmo Sect watches from 7 kilometers away, waiting to strike. Leave a like and join the sect to see if his cultivation can survive the coming storm. Jiuyang Sect, eastern region of Qingzhou province. Clouds swirled above the mountain range as rays of multicolored light, which made the sun dim in comparison, shone on the peaks. Chu Yang Peak. Who would awake from the grand dream? I've known about it all my life. Jiang Ming opened the windows and gazed at the swirling clouds in the distance and the verdant trees that swayed with the rhythm of the wind. He stretched and inhaled deeply before exclaiming, "This feels great." He could see the occasional glint from a blade in the sky, flying cultivators, and spiritual beasts. This was a scenery one would expect from an immortal sect. This is the life. There was no need to buy a house, no need for work or overtime, no boss breathing down his neck, and no need for betrothal gifts. He could sleep until he naturally woke up. This was truly great. He felt as though he was dreaming. With just a thought, a virtual screen popped up before him. Name: Jiang Ming. Cultivation Base. Foundation Establishment Perfect. Main Cultivation. Grand Path. Almighty Method. Sutra. Spell. Cold Breeze. Sword Technique. Wind Control. Timely Rain. Fire Talisman. Fireball. Special Ability. None. Items: Human Path Records. Flowing Cloud Sword. Flowing Cloud Ring. God of Cooking Almanac. Farming Almanac. This was his system. Jiang Ming's innate talent was average at best. He was already 18 years old, but he was only at the 6th stage of the key cultivation realm even though he had not taken a single day off from cultivating. He was neither outstanding nor poor in the sect. He was average. Nobody paid attention to him at all. Nevertheless, he preferred it this way. However, 3 months ago, the system suddenly awakened. That morning 3 months ago was similarly refreshing. When he got up from his bed, freedom will be yours if you maintain your ordinariness. Obtained a beginner's package. Jiang Ming was momentarily stunned. When he regained his senses, a smile appeared on his face. This must be some kind of cheat. However, what's this ordinary life system? Can I max my level with just a tap of my finger? You'll be rewarded for performing ordinary tasks. You'll have to rely on yourself to discover the details. Jiang Jin smacked his lips together. Well, it's better than nothing. System, open the beginner's package.
Congratulations! You have obtained the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra, the Human Path Records, the ability to conceal your cultivation base at will, enhanced vision, and 10 years worth of cultivation.
The items have been stored in the storage space. You can retrieve them at any time. Grand Path what? Almighty Sutra Method, Human Path Records? Aren't you an ordinary life system? What's with all these rewards with names that definitely aren't ordinary? A mighty force is needed to maintain ordinariness. Why don't you turn me into an immortal while you're at it? I'll make being an immortal an ordinary thing. There was no reply from the system. Jiang Ming was not bothered by the lack of reply. He thought about it for a moment before he finally shook his head. He decided not to dwell on the system's origin and purpose. System, activate the concealing ability. Ability activated. Tips. You can choose how much of your cultivation base you want to conceal. This was not difficult to understand. It meant that he could conceal his 6th stage key cultivation realm and make it appear as the 2nd stage, 4th stage, or he could conceal it completely. System. Retrieve the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra. The next moment, an extremely profound cultivation method surfaced in his mind. Due to the sheer amount of information, the system automatically hid the more advanced parts of the cultivation method. He was only shown parts suitable for those at the key cultivation realm and foundation establishment realm. Jiang Ming knew that the more advanced cultivation methods would be revealed to him as his cultivation base improved in the future. After comprehending the cultivation method, his mana began to circulate on its own. Before he knew it, his mana had transformed, and he had reached the first threshold of the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra. His bodily constitution had changed as well. This cultivation method is amazing. Jiang Ming was shocked when he came to himself. His mana's attributes were completely transformed. Although his cultivation base had dropped from the 6th stage to the 1st stage of the Qi cultivation realm, he did not feel any weaker. On the contrary, he felt stronger than before. My 6th stage mana isn't even a match for my current 1st stage mana. Jiang Ming's eyes lit up. Although he was at the 1st stage now, he was as strong if not stronger as when he was at the 6th stage. What would happen if he were to reach the 6th stage again? Jiang Ming had always strived to live a simple life, but at this moment he felt his heart racing in his chest. He raised his hand and conjured a ball of mana. It was grayish and fuzzy, but in the next second it transformed into a ball of flames. Then, with a flash of light, it turned into a ball of water. Amazing. Jiang Ming was ecstatic. When he cultivated the Mystic Prime method in the past, his mana did not have any attributes. It was almost impossible for him to change his mana's attributes, so he had to cultivate the respective spells. After taking a few moments to calm down, Jiang Ming retrieved the human path records. It was a book, and it was also an exceptional item. When the book appeared in his hand, it immediately registered him as its owner. With that, he easily gained access to the book's functions. These functions are incredible. The book had a purple cover with several Taoist motifs. He did not recognize them, but he knew what they meant. The human path records. With just a thought, the book floated in the air and slowly dissolved. It did not seem like it belonged to reality or existed in space, nor did it seem like it belonged to the illusory plane. However, it seemed to be integrated with the fabric of the world. He was the only one who could see the book. The book flipped open, revealing the empty page inside. With his mind, Jiang Ming wrote a name on the empty page, Zi Ling Long. Following that, detailed information appeared below the page. Name Zi Ling Long. Gender female. Cultivation base second stage of the Qi cultivation realm. Background. Disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Chu Yang Peak. Relationship 85. Status sound asleep. This girl must rely on me a lot. Jiang Ming could not help but chuckle when he saw the relationship value. The relationship value showed the level of closeness the other person felt toward him. It could also be considered the degree of their loyalty to him. The maximum value attainable was 99 points. The value of 100 would mean that the other party was like a puppet whose soul and will were controlled by him. This was impossible to achieve with living things who possessed free will. The value 0 indicated they were strangers. A negative value meant that the other person was either disgusted by him, harbored hostility, or wanted to kill him, among other things. Jiang Ming pondered for a moment before he added another name. Name, Gu Hai. Gender, male. Cultivation base, Purple Mansion Realm. Background. First seat of Jiuyang Sect's Chu Yang Peak. Relationship, 82 status. Playing chess master's cultivation base is slightly lower. Jiang Ming sighed inwardly. This was one of the human path records functions. It would reveal basic information about the individual whose name was written on the page. Its other function was that it could reveal basic information about the person it touched. There were many other functions that would be unlocked as his cultivation base improved. This book would be like a regalia if it were to fall into the hands of any one of the leaders of the various organizations. Jiang Ming had a feeling that the human path records was like a simplified version of the system. After dismissing the extraneous thoughts in his mind, he extracted the 10 years' worth of cultivation. In the next instant, a torrent of mana instantly filled his dantian, causing his cultivation base to improve by leaps and bounds. At the same time, the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra was circulating swiftly. He did not meet any obstacles and smoothly reached the 9th stage of the cultivation realm. His bodily constitution had changed tremendously along with the rise of his cultivation base as well. This is amazing! Jiang Ming was stunned. He rose to his feet and flexed his limbs. He did not feel any discomfort. Although he did not have complete control over his enhanced mana yet, he controlled it as though it was an extension of his arm. Then, he opened the windows to look at the morning sun that hung high in the sky. Its golden rays illuminated the clouds, the mountains, and the rivers. He was instantly refreshed by the scenery. After a moment, he turned around and walked out of his room. Subsequently, made a simple breakfast. Reward, 1 day's worth of cultivation. Fetched a jar of water. Reward, a hoe, low-grade artifact. Chopped a bundle of wood. Reward, 1 day's worth of cultivation. Cleared a plot of land to be used as a vegetable garden. Reward, God of Cooking Almanac and 10 days worth of cultivation cookie. Caught a koi. Reward, 15 days worth of cultivation cookies. 60. Congratulations on living for 7 days on Chu Yang Peak while completing at least one menial task each day. Reward, 6 months worth of cultivation. Ever since the system came into Jiang Ming's life, the diligent Jiang Ming stopped being hard-working. 3 months later. Finally, Jiang Ming shook his head helplessly whenever he thought about the changes he experienced over the past 3 months. He had always wanted to attain power and longevity. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never wasted a single minute. It was unfortunate that his hard work was only met with limited success. However, currently he only needed to carry out menial tasks on the mountain, and his cultivation base would increase on its own. Who would work hard if they were given such an advantage? This is the life, Jiang Ming exclaimed. This is fucking awesome. He received 2 notifications from the system, one in the middle of the night and one shortly after he woke up. Congratulations on living on Chu Yang Peak for 3 consecutive months while completing at least one menial task each day. Reward, 10 years worth of cultivation and the low-grade item, Noble Robri transforms inthesirably to it. Congratulations on having a good night's sleep. It does wonders to your complexion and health. Reward, 3 days worth of cultivation. Jiang Ming used his senses to probe his little junior sister Zi Ling Long, and discovered that she was still asleep. It seemed like she would be asleep for quite a while. With that, Jiang Ming closed the windows and sat cross-legged on the floor. Then, he began to cultivate. Since he had the concealing ability, there would not be any strange phenomena or leakage of auras. In just an instant, he felt a torrential surge of extremely pure power inside his dantian. Following that, Jiang Ming circulated the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra. There was a slight pause as the power pushed against the bottleneck of the perfect stage foundation establishment realm before he broke through and entered a new realm. There were 10 cultivation realms, but 3 of the final realms were not known. Not even the Jiuyang Sect had records of them. The 7 realms were Key Cultivation Realm, the Foundation Establishment Realm, the Core Formation Realm, the Purple Mansion Realm, the Tao Seed Realm, the Nascent Soul Realm, and the Primal Spirit Realm. The Core Formation Realm was divided into 3 stages, the False Core, the Real Core, and the Golden Core stages. Inside Jiang Ming's vast dantian, his liquefied mana churned at a blinding speed. A small liquid sphere could be seen in the center. This was the false core. The sphere continued to absorb the power in its surroundings in a frenzy. It compressed and refined it until it transformed into a gray solid sphere. This was the real core. Just like that, he had used up 10 years worth of cultivation. In just 3 months, I went from the 9th stage of the key cultivation realm to the core formation realm. This is truly amazing. Jiang Ming stood up and tidied his clothes. His cultivation session did not take up too much time as usual. However, his cultivation base had risen tremendously, and he did not feel any undesirable effects. He brought out the noble robe, which was given to him by the system. After he dripped a drop of blood on it to make it acknowledge him as its owner, he could change its form according to his will. He draped the robe across his body and it turned into an ordinary long white robe with just a thought. Items were divided into weapons and artifacts. Then, they were categorized into low, middle, high, and top grades. Usually, only Purple Mansion experts would possess artifacts. I don't have to worry about anyone below the Purple Mansion realm. Jiang Ming was satisfied and happy with this. Based on his knowledge, even a genius needed to cultivate for decades before reaching the core formation realm. In remote places, a cultivator with a real core could even establish a clan or become a leader of a village. Jiang Ming opened his windows again, letting the sunlight stream into his room. It's time to cook. As he was making his way downstairs, he did not hear any movements from the other place, so he knew that Linglong must still be sleeping. He made his way to the kitchen and began preparing breakfast. In another 2-story pavilion, a girl who was around 10 years old lay on a bed. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open, and a biting chill instantly permeated the air. Her domineering and condescending aura seemed to have caused the temperature to drop. After a moment, the coldness slowly receded. I can't believe I've been reborn. The girl leaped off the bed and opened her windows. She quickly surveyed the area and saw Jiang Ming busying himself in the kitchen. When her eyes lingered on him for a moment, they softened slightly. Her past and present memories had merged completely at this moment. It's so good to see you again, senior brother. Tears brimmed in Linglong's eyes as she looked at Jiang Ming. You protected me my whole life. Now it's my turn to protect you. If anyone dares to— She suddenly looked up and grabbed at thin air. A cold and cruel expression appeared on her tiny face as she moved to sit in front of the simple dressing table. She ran her fingers along the table as she looked at the young face reflected in the mirror. Her vision blurred as a scene of bloody carnage from her memories replayed before her eyes. She inhaled deeply to calm down. Her eyes flashed coldly as she murmured to herself, "Now that I've been reborn, I'll deal with this lifetime's troubles so that senior brother can lead a carefree lifeline." Her expression was one of determination as she spoke to herself. After a moment, she took a deep breath again to get into character. The cold light glinting in her eyes vanished and was replaced with naivete. Then, she rose to her feet and left her room. Linglong walked into the courtyard and surveyed her surroundings. Trees and flowers dotted the courtyard where 3 pavilions stood. The main pavilion was flanked by 2 pavilions, and each pavilion had 3 stories. 2 kitchens were built at the southeastern corner. Jiang Ming dumped 2 handfuls of rice into the pot before washing and rinsing them. Following that, he poured spiritual water into the pot and added 8 purple cloud dates and 8 longans before closing the lid. He added a few chopped rosenwood planks to the fire and ignited them with his mana. The wood burst into flames without releasing any smoke. Instead, a faint fragrance began to permeate the air. This was one of the benefits of using rosenwood. There was no pollution. At this time, he suddenly felt something and instinctively turned to look at Linglong's room. There was a slight look of confusion on his face, but he did not dwell on it. He returned to the task at hand and began to peel several stalks of spring onions and wash them. Then, he diced the tofu until they were the size of fingernails. All he needed to do now was to add a little fragrant oil before steaming the tofu and the spring onion. He thought about it for a moment before he brought 8 pheasant eggs out and made omelets. After he was done, he brought some pheasant meat and stir-fried them. All these were simple dishes that only needed a short time to prepare. At this time, Shang Jin felt a familiar aura. When he turned around, he saw Zilinglong. Zilinglong dove into arms as tears glistened in her eyes. She inhaled deeply before rubbing her face against his robe like a cat. "Senior brother? What is it, girl? Did you have a nightmare?" Jiang Ming asked as he patted her head. "I did, senior brother. I dreamt about a place called Mingyu Mountain. Do you know where it is?" Zilinglong asked as she looked at him expectantly. "Mingyu Mountain?" Jiang Ming thought about it for a moment before shaking his head. "I have no idea where it is. Is that somewhere you've been to in the past?" Zilinglong lowered her head and rubbed her face against his robes again. "Don't worry, I'm here. Everything will be all right," Yang Ming consoled her. Then he said, "Go wash up. Breakfast will be ready in a minute." "Okay, senior brother." Linglong rubbed her face against his robe one final time before she reluctantly left. "This girl." Jiang Ming smiled helplessly before he continued preparing breakfast. He made a few pancakes and cooked congee as well. When he was done, he brought all the dishes out and placed them on a stone table in the courtyard. "They smell great." Zilinglong inhaled deeply. Her eyes reddened again as she spoke. "That's a matter of course. I was the one who cooked them after all," Jiang Jin said, pleased with himself. Then he patted her head and said, "Eat up. You're as skinny as a bean sprout." "I won't look good if I'm fat," Linglong protested. "You're just a brat. Why do you care so much about your appearance?" Just as Jiang Ming took a seat, he received a system notification. Cook delicious breakfast. After the notification ended, his mana increased slightly, but he did not pay much attention to it. Since this happened several times a day, he had gotten used to it. "I'm still a girl no matter what." Zilinglong picked up her chopsticks and eagerly ate a piece of the omelets. She closed her eyes and chewed on it, savoring its taste. Then, tears began to stream down her face again. "What's wrong, girl?" Jiang Ming stood up and wiped Zilinglong's tears away. "The food you made is too delicious, senior brother." Zilinglong sniffed before she said with a smile, "It's tasty. It's much more delicious than exotic delicacies or ambrosia. I know you're trying to flatter me, but I like it." Jiang Ming tousled her hair. "You're acting strange today. Are you feeling homesick?" "This is my home. You're my closest kin," Zilinglong said in a low voice as she lowered her head. "I watched you earlier when you were preparing breakfast. When I thought about the hardships you must have gone through over the years, I feel like I've matured a lot." Yang Ming laughed. "It seems like all my efforts aren't in vain. I'm both your older brother and your father. I feel like an elderly father whose daughter is all grown up." "You're only 18, Zilinglong scoffed. "I have an old soul. Hurry up and finish the food before they go cold." "All right." Zilinglong picked up a piece of pancake and slowly ate it, taking her time to enjoy it. After a while, she finished everything that was served. "You have a huge appetite today. Is my cooking that good?" Jiang Ming said. "You're already at the Qi cultivation realm. You might not be able to abstain from eating completely, but you'll be fine eating one meal every 2 or 3 days. It is. Your cooking is the best in the world. I want to eat your cooking every meal for the rest of my life." Zilinglong wiped her mouth and rested her chin on her hands as she stared dreamily into the distance. "Every meal? What about cultivation?" Jiang Ming asked before saying with a smile, "I'll cook for you if I have the time." "You're the best, senior brother." "All right, you should go cultivate now. I'll wash the dishes first." "Did the sun rise from the west today? You usually disappear as soon as you have your fill." "Didn't I tell you that I've matured? You're still a kid to me. Go have fun," Shang Ming said as he began to clear the table. At the same time, another system notification rang in his mind. "Zilinglong enjoyed the breakfast you prepared and finished everything. So this is a reward for my improved cooking," Jiang Ming murmured as he cast the timely rain spell to wash the plates. The God of Cooking Almanac did not turn him into an amazing chef overnight, but it did provide him with knowledge about the usage of knives, the different kinds of ingredients available, the ways to prepare them, and the basic principles of combining different ingredients, among others. After memorizing the book's content and 2 months of practicing, his cooking had improved tremendously. Now, he could create excellent dishes from the simplest ingredients. After he was done cleaning up, he brewed a pot of tea and sat on a recliner in the courtyard. Since he had nothing to attend to for now, he manifested the human path records. He opened the book and saw that his relationship value with Zilinglong had changed. Their relationship value was now at 95. Did she truly mature? Although Jiang Ming was puzzled, he did not dwell on it. After drinking a cup of tea, he left the courtyard and went to the back of the mountain that was connected to another mountain through a forest. When he returned, he brought back a bundle of firewood with him. He had just placed the wood on the ground when he received another system notification. Chopped a bundle of wood. Reward: 2 days worth of cultivation. Jiang Ming sighed. "Are you trying to turn me into a farmer or a house husband? Is this your definition of an ordinary life? Did I miss something?" In his opinion, an ordinary life was one that was carefree and uneventful. However, now he had to cook, fetch water, chop wood, and farm. He cursed under his breath. It seemed like the system was really trying to turn him into a farmer. After a moment, he sighed. Forget it. He preferred this over cultivating mindlessly, fighting or killing. Jiang Ming carried the hoe on his shoulder and continued with his task. He made his way toward rows of houses on the other side. There were as many as 100 houses that were lined up neatly. There were also houses halfway up the mountain. However, those houses were abandoned now. Jiang Ming went behind the houses. He had 5 plots of farmland here where he had planted some chives, cilantro, and carrots, among others. The climate on the mountain was consistently spring-like throughout the year. The flowers never wilt, and his vegetables remained green. The others travel while I cook. The others cultivate while I farm. Jiang Ming mocked himself. He raised the hoe and started to work. He wanted to plant fruits next. At this moment, a streak of light flew toward him and landed behind him. It was none other than Gu Hai. He was an old man with a white beard. A wine gourd could be seen hanging at his waist. The scent of alcohol quickly wafted into Jiang Ming's nostrils. "Are you planning to expand your farm again?" Gu Hai asked as his white beard shook. "Are you a cultivator or a farmer?" Jiang Ming replied hastily with a smile on his face. "Master, I'm planting herbs for Linglong's health." "Fuck off." Gu Hai was annoyed upon hearing Jiang Ming's reply. "I have fasting pills, chi enhancement pills, and beast blood pills. She doesn't need your vegetables. You're either slacking off, sleeping somewhere, or working this deemed farm. Look at the other disciples. None of them are like you. Can you at least work hard for my sake? You were a diligent disciple 3 months ago. What happened to you, brat? You're aware of my innate talent, master. I started cultivating when I was 8 and it's been 10 years, but I'm only at the 6th stage of the key cultivation realm. I'm mediocre at best. It's obvious that I'll only have limited success in the future. I'm better off enjoying my life." Jiang Ming said as he placed the hoe on his shoulder. "I've decided to accept the situation and move on. You can't enjoy life without sufficient strength." Gu Hai scoffed before taking a swig from the wine gourd. Then he said in an attempt to coax Jiang Ming, "If you cultivate diligently and raise your cultivation base to the point where you can manifest apparitions, you'll certainly be able to catch the eyes of the female disciples from Jiuyang Peak. Moreover, you'll be able to roam the lands freely. Who knows, you might even be able to save a damsel in distress who would repay you by marrying you. Or you might run into some ruins left behind by an expert, gain enlightenment, and soar to great heights. See, can you see how exciting life would be if you just cultivate? Even if I cultivate diligently, I can never catch up to those geniuses in the sect. Nothing will change. As for roaming the lands, it's too dangerous. Demons are lurking everywhere. I'd lose work hard in my cultivation. I can never compare to the proud sons of the heavens in the sect. Nothing will change. As for roaming the lands, it's not safe out there. Demons and devils are lurking everywhere. I'd lose my life if I'm not careful. As for ruins, 9 out of 10 cultivators who discovered such places died while the other one was possessed," Jiang Ming said, confident in his reasoning. "My life is very comfortable now. I watch the flowers blossom and wilt as the clouds traverse the sky. Isn't this wonderful? By the way, are you going to the courtyard? I'll cook some side dishes to go with your wine. I assure you that you'll enjoy your drink even more. You're such a disappointment to me. Get over here. I'm going to beat some sense into you," Gu Hai roared. However, when the latter parts of Jiang Ming's words registered in his brain, he sighed before he said, "8 side dishes. Even if one dish is missing, I'll send you into the dark room." Jiang Ming chuckled. Gu Hai looked away. At this moment, the duo turned to look at the courtyard. They saw a flicker of flame before one of the pavilions exploded. The silhouette of a flaming bird rose from the flames like the phoenix of the legends. The flames raged, looking as though they would burn down everything that stood in their way. "Stay here," Gu Hai said grimly before he leaped toward the fiery scene. "That's Linglong's room." Jiang Ming paled. He flew on his sword and drew level with Gu Hai. The pavilion on the right was already reduced to ashes, but the fire was still going strong. The 2 remaining pavilions were intact for now. At this moment, Zi Linglong was hovering with her eyes closed and her legs crossed in the midst of the flames. Flames were surging from her body as the silhouette of a bird circled above her before nose-diving into her body. Following that, the flames in her surroundings rushed into her body, leaving only ashes and smoke in their wake. When Jiang Ming sensed her energy was rising swiftly at this moment, he asked, "What's happening, Master? Why aren't you doing anything?" She must have awakened some yet. Zi Linglong's aura was rising swiftly. "What's happening, Master?" Yang Ming asked. "Why aren't you doing anything?" She must have awakened to some latent ability. If Feng, her life isn't in danger, Gu Hai explained. "Don't worry, I'm here." Jiang Ming sighed in relief upon hearing these words. Then, he brought the human path records out in his mind before flipping it to the page that displayed Zi Linglong's information. Name: Zi Linglong. Gender: female. Cultivation base: 5th stage of the key cultivation realm. Background: disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Chu Yang Peak. Relationship: 95. Status: she's growing stronger from her daily cultivation, and as a result she has awakened the faint phoenix bloodline in her body. Her cultivation is currently rising swiftly. Phoenix bloodline? Jiang Ming was shocked. Although it was just a faint trace, it was still a legendary bloodline. No wonder there was such a huge commotion. At this moment, he could sense the fluctuation in her cultivation base. She was now at the 7th stage of the key cultivation realm, but it was still rising. He could also sense the spiritual key in the surroundings converging on her. Gu Hai, who had noticed this as well, frowned. He tossed a handful of spirit crystals in the air before shattering them with his mana and sending the shards toward Linglong. Jiang Ming stared at the Linglong's page on the human path records. He was both worried and shocked. Linglong's cultivation base had already risen to the 9th stage of the Qi cultivation realm. It merely paused slightly before it continued rising and broke through to the foundation establishment realm. The Qi cultivation realm was divided into 9 stages. The next realm was divided into the early, middle, late, and perfect stages. In the end, Linglong's cultivation base stopped at the perfect stage of the foundation establishment realm. Jiang Ming's lips twitched when he saw this. Even with the system, he had only reached the perfect foundation establishment realm when he woke up today. Nevertheless, he was relieved that his junior sister was fine. When Linglong opened her eyes, they flashed red for a moment. When she saw the 2 men in the distance, she cried out in surprise, "Senior brother, master!" She swiftly flew to their sides before she asked, slightly flustered, "What happened to me? I was cultivating when a terrifying energy began to surge in my body, and then—" "Hold on." Gu Hai grabbed her wrist and examined her. Then he seemed shocked before he released her hand and laughed heartily. "What an impressive bloodline power. I finally have a gifted, extraordinary, and peerless disciple." After Gu Hai was done laughing, he said reassuringly, "Don't worry, Linglong. You only awakened your bloodline power. Moreover, it's the Phoenix bloodline. This is definitely good news, so don't worry. No one can compare to your talent." Then, his expression suddenly turned grim as he continued to say, "Remember, Linglong, you have to keep an extremely low profile from now on." "Why should I keep a low profile if I'm a peerless genius, master?" Linglong asked innocently. "It's so you can stay safe. Moreover, without other people's envy and jealousy, you'll grow swiftly as well," Gu Hai explained. "That can't be right, master." Linglong shook her head. "The talented seniors are all showy. Only if you show off will the sect value you and nurture you. Isn't quicker and safer for me to grow stronger?" In any case, your master knows best," Gu Hai said after a brief moment of hesitation. "Ignore your elders at your own peril. The elders aren't always right. Otherwise, why are you being shunned, master? I heard someone propose to dismiss you from the position of first seat. Who told you that?" Gu Hai's face flushed red. "That's enough, Linglong. You'll be sorry if you make master angry." Jiang Ming hastily stepped in and said, "Master, Linglong is still young. Why are you picking a fight with her?" "Can't anyone cut me some slack around here?" Gu Hai said, annoyed. "Get to work, Ming. I want 16 dishes instead of 8 dishes now." Jiang Ming raised an eyebrow at Linglong, and she covered her mouth and giggled. Gu Hai waved his sleeve, stirring up a gust of strong wind to carry the debris and rubble from the flames to the mountains. "Then," he said, "Ming, remember to build another pavilion for your little junior sister when you're done cooking." Jiang Ming felt rather speechless. Then, he said, "You're our master, you know. Shouldn't it be your duty to build a pavilion for little junior sister?" "A disciple should serve his master," Gu Hai said as he placed his hands on his back. "You're the eldest senior brother in this place. It's only natural that you're in charge of handling any issues that arise here." At this time, Linglong hurriedly said, "It's fine, it's fine. I can stay with senior brother." "No," Jiang Ming shook his head vehemently. "You'll soon become a woman and you should learn to be independent." In fact, Jiang Ming was actually concerned about his little secret. If he were to live with another person, his secret would definitely be exposed. Linglong pouted as her eyes reddened. "Senior brother, don't you care about me anymore?" Gu Hai did not bother with his 2 disciples and returned to the main pavilion. "Cut that out," Jiang Ming said. "Come and help me in the kitchen." "Fine," Linglong pouted. However, a smile soon appeared on her face as she said, "Senior brother, my cultivation base is higher than yours now. I'll protect you in the future." Jiang Ming only chuckled in response. It was easy to prepare dishes for cultivators. It only took Yang Ming slightly more than an hour to cook 8 meat dishes, 8 vegetable dishes, and 2 kinds of soup. When Yang Ming sat down, he received a system notification. "Congratulations on preparing a feast. Reward: half a month's worth of cultivation." Jiang Ming could not help but smile. "Are you feeling accomplished just because you can cook?" Gu Hai scoffed. "If the other first seats find out that my first disciple is a chef, I'd become the laughingstock all the way to the western region." "Are you going to eat this?" Yang Ming asked with a smile. "You've already prepared the food. It'd be a waste of your efforts if I don't eat it." Gu Hai picked up his chopsticks and took a piece of glistening meat. He placed the meat inside his mouth, closed his eyes, and slowly chewed on it. "Isn't it delicious?" "It is. Eat more then." Gu Hai cleared his throat before he said, "Although it's delicious, the desire for good food can be satisfied anywhere in the world. you should focus on your cultivation. With a profound cultivation base, you can reach for the stars. When that day comes, you'll be able to hire a team of chefs to cook for you. That doesn't sound as fun as cooking for myself. You're hopeless. If it weren't for this table of food, I would have beaten you into a pulp. Gu Hai snapped. He quickly gobbled up another helping of vegetables before drinking a few swigs of wine to douse his anger. Then, he said, fortunately Linglong has activated her bloodline. This clearly shows she's gifted. I can finally hold my head up high. At this moment, Linglong looked at the two bickering men and rolled her eyes. Then she said, Master, I'm thinking of challenging the Tower of Trials soon. The Tower of Trials? No, never. Absolutely not. Gu Hai shook his head. Your cultivation base has improved, but you're too young. You can't cast spells and you're inexperienced. You'll be devoured in no time. Tell me, Linglong, why do you want to challenge the Tower of Trials? It's stated in the sect rules that the more floors a disciple clears, the greater the reward the disciple will receive. Linglong answered truthfully. With more rewards, I'd be able to improve faster. I'm glad to hear these words. Unlike you, your senior brother is nothing but a disappointment. I won't care about him anymore. I'll give you all the good things that I have from now on. Gu Hai said as he glanced at Jiang Ming. When he saw that Jiang Ming did not seem to care at all, he almost lost his temper again. In the end, he said, Linglong, you should focus on your cultivation for now. Thank you, Master. Linglong said sweetly. I'll protect senior brother once I grow stronger. Jiang Ming furrowed his brows as he looked at his 10-year-old junior sister. She seemed different today, but he could not put his fingers on exactly what was different. Served your master and your junior sister a sumptuous meal and made them happy. Reward, 6 months' worth of cultivation. As for his master feeling sorry for his misfortune while also feeling angry at his resignation toward his current situation, he did not dwell on it, nor did he let it bother him. He knew his master Gu Hai very well, and his master was like his father. That was great. Gu Hai patted his belly with a satisfied expression on his face. Then, he looked at Jiang Ming and said, if you don't want to cultivate, you should at least prepare one meal for every day until you decide to cultivate diligently again. You just want to eat the delicious food I cook, right? Jiang Ming asked. Nonsense. This is your punishment. Gu Hai stood up and walked away. Before he left, he said, build a house for Linglong as soon as you can. Gu Hai's voice had barely faded when his figure had already vanished from sight. That old man ran off to fool around again. Jiang Ming shook his head. After putting the plates away, Jiang Ming began to urge Linglong to cultivate again. However, she said, I'll help you, senior brother. I'm a foundation establishment cultivator now. My cultivation base is higher than yours now. Stop treating me like a child. All right. Yang Ming nodded. Then, he asked, what kind of house do you like? A simple bamboo house will do. When my cultivation base improves further, and I learn how to manifest items, I'll build a manor or a palace, Linglong said. At that time you can stay with me. Jiang Ming laughed. All right. I like the sound of that. The Jux and the Mussab Praihus, Jiang Ming and Linglong went to the back of the mountain again. There was a black bamboo grove on the slope of the mountain. Black bamboos carried a unique fragrance that repelled insects. Moreover, they were sturdy as well, making them suitable for building houses. As cultivators, they only made 10 trips before they had gathered enough bamboo. By dusk, the duo had completed the building of the 2-story bamboo house. You're amazing, senior brother. You built this house in such a short time, Linglong said cheerfully. Of course. I'm a master builder after all, Yang Jin said haughtily. Then, he added, be careful when you cultivate. This house can't withstand a lot of forces. I'm a gentle and quiet girl. I'll be fine. If anything, I'm worried you'll damage the house when you visit. Would I do something like that? At this time, the sun was setting, faintly lighting up the sky with a myriad of colors. From the rooftop, Yang Ming could see the mountains and the forest. The scenery made Yang Ming feel refreshed. He took a seat and listened to the system notification. Built a bamboo house for your junior sister and made her happy. Reward, 1 year's worth of cultivation base and a basic formation almanac. Did I get more rewards for making my junior sister happy? Jiang Ming asked the system. If people knew about the way he cultivated, they would die of envy. A year of cultivation was equivalent to the amount of mana one would accumulate after cultivating for a year in seclusion without food or drink in a suitable environment. For ordinary people, that was a few years' worth of cultivation. At this moment, Linglong flew up to the rooftop. As she placed a tray on the roof, she said, Senior brother, I brewed a pot of tea and washed some grapes. Her movements were nimble as she poured Jiang Ming a cup of tea. She surveyed her surroundings for a moment before she said, Senior brother, don't you think the rooftop is too boring? You should have placed some plants or hanging vines here. You can also build a small gazebo to shade us from the sun and rain. This is really unlike you, Linglong, Jiang Ming said, puzzled. Linglong scoffed, scrunching her nose. Then, she grinned, revealing her teeth, before she said haughtily, I'm not at the peak of the foundation establishment realm. My thought process is 100 times faster than before. I can easily remember and learn everything I see. Jiang Ming lay back against the recliner and said, "You're right. Genius cultivators have always been smart. Looks like I'll be able to rest easy from now on. Anyway, what would you like to have for dinner?" "I'm not hungry." Linglong took a seat next to him before she said, "I want to spend time with you, senior brother." Jiang Ming sighed. "It must be hard for you. You don't have anyone your age to play with on the mountain. Senior brother, I'm the happiest when I'm with you." Jiang Ming laughed. "You sly little girl, you're getting more and more eloquent." The duo continued chatting happily as the sun set behind the mountains. Darkness descended and the stars twinkled merrily in the sky. At this moment, Gu Hai flew up to the rooftop. When he saw Jiang Ming relaxing on the recliner, he grew angry again. "You lazy pig, why aren't you cultivating? Even your junior sister has surpassed you. Linglong is already a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator. It's impossible for me to catch up to her right away. I'd need at least several decades to catch up to her. Moreover, she's a peerless genius. When I reach the Foundation establishment realm, I'm sure she'll already be at the core formation realm." Jiang Ming stood up and pulled another chair for his master. "There's only room for one genius here. Let me deal with the logistics from now on." "You have no ambition at all." Gu Hai snorted before he turned to Linglong. A smile bloomed on his face immediately. "I had a look at the sect master's books regarding your condition. All you have to do is cultivate as usual. If you experience anything strange, inform me immediately. I'll try to stay on the mountain from now on so you can look for me whenever." "Okay, master." Linglong nodded obediently. "You're going to stay on the mountain more often?" "The sun must be rising from the west," Jiang Ming said mockingly. "Hey, I'm the master of this peak." "The first seat," Gu Hai said indignantly. All right, cheers to the master of this peak," Jiang Ming said as he poured his master a cup of tea before lying back down on the recliner. Gu Hai felt a strange itch in his hand as he looked at his eldest disciple. In the end, he picked up the teacup and emptied it in one go. Following that, he lay down on the recliner as well. "Ah, look at the starry skies. What wouldn't I give to spend my days like this?" Yang Ming was filled with the urge to mock his master, but in the end he forcefully swallowed the words hanging on the tip of his tongue. The master and his two disciples enjoyed the quiet night together. It was a rare occasion for them to do this. In the end, the old man was the first to leave. "Go to sleep, girl." "I don't want to sleep yet. I want to stay with senior brother. You see him every day. Be a good girl and go to sleep." Linglong pouted before she finally relented. All right, changing one's body constitution was a long-term project. It was not something that could be completed in a day. Yang Ming could clearly feel his body had become much more powerful. Currently, he could easily overpower a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator with his physical strength alone. The next day, after making breakfast for his junior sister, he walked to the back of the courtyard and continued tilling and clearing the land. With his strength, he was done in just a few hours. Congratulations on clearing a plot of land. Reward 6 months worth of cultivation. Jiang Jin did not pay attention to the notification as he wondered out loud, "What should I plant? I have enough vegetables but I can't plant fruits here." Since he could not decide, he pushed the matter aside for now. Then he went to the adjacent plot. The purple carrots, honey carrots, and jadeite cabbages he planted here were ready to be harvested. He would store them in the cold room after they were harvested. He had built the cold room using a simple cold air formation. Congratulations on harvesting the fruits of your labor. Reward: 3 years worth of cultivation and a basic talisman almanac. Jiang Ming inhaled sharply. He did not expect to receive so many rewards from a single harvest. "You're amazing, system." He mentally gave the system a thumbs up. Following that, an idea appeared in Jiang Ming's mind as he looked at the barren land again. Then, he glanced at the abandoned buildings in the distance and rubbed his hands together. The late evening breeze blew across the lands. The view of the sun setting looked as though it was from painting. Under the shade, Jiang Ming closed his eyes as he leisurely rocked back and forth on the recliner. He was still in a good mood from the rewards he received in the morning. When his junior sister was cultivating, or as she would put it, raising her cultivation base, she would learn protective spells as well. She had told him that it could be used to protect him in the future. Jiang Ming, who was enjoying the silence, furrowed his eyebrows when he sensed 2 visitors swiftly making their way up to the peak from the foot of the mountain. Following that, he flew forward and greeted the visitors who had finally arrived. "Senior Sister Momo, what a pleasant surprise. I heard an oriental magpie singing from the treetop earlier. I should have known it heralded your visit." Her hair grew down to her waist, her eyebrows curved prettily, and dimples appeared on her cheeks when she smiled. Momo continued to say, "I went out before this and obtained some spiritual rice. It can be made into kanji for Linglong." Then, Momo handed a sack of rice that weighed about 10 catties. The first disciples of all the first seats were addressed as senior brothers or senior sisters. Hence, Jiang Ming addressed her as Senior Momo despite her age. "Thank you very much. This is great. I'll thank you properly again once Linglong emerges from her cultivation in seclusion, Jiang Ming said as he took the sack of rice. Then he turned to the white-clad man next to Momo and asked, which Peak's disciple is he, senior sister Momo? This is Lingu Yin. He's a disciple of Jiuyang Peak. He's already entered the Foundation establishment realm. We ran into each other earlier so he decided to tag along, Momo explained. It's an honor to meet you, senior brother Jiang. Lingu Yin cupped his fists and smiled. His smile was clearly insincere. In his opinion, Jiang Ming was beneath him. This did not escape Jiang Ming's notice, but he was not bothered at all. He cupped his fists at Lingu Yin and said, nice to meet you, junior brother Lingu. Master Yu is an amazing teacher. Despite your age, you've already entered the Foundation establishment realm. I'm impressed. Anyway, please come in. Jiang Ming led the visitors to the eastern pavilion and brewed a pot of tea. The trio then chatted over tea. Is Master Gu here? I should greet him, Lingu Yin said perfunctorily. My master spends his time roaming the lands. He left the mountain at dawn earlier and didn't even bother to inform me. Sunnis, Jiang Ming said helplessly. Master Gu sure is carefree. Lingu Yu smiled with a hint of condescension. Does he plan to recruit any more disciples? It seems slightly deserted here. Yang Ming's expression darkened immediately. That's none of your business, junior brother. Momo frowned. Lingu Yin scoffed lightly as he toyed with the teacup in his hand. He smiled meaningfully as he continued to say, the first disciples of first seats are usually in the core formation realm, right? However, Chu Peak's first disciple is only at the 6th stage of the Qi cultivation realm. I'd be embarrassed if I were the first seat of Chu Peak. What do you think, senior brother Jiang? Lingu Yin said the words senior brother Jiang mockingly. You've gone too far, junior brother Lingu, Momo said. At this moment, killing intent suddenly surged in the room as a figure barged into the pavilion. It was none other than Zi Linglong. You're unworthy to speak his name, Zi Linglong said with burning eyes. Zi Linglong, it's rude to attack your seniors, you know, Lingu Yin said dismissively. He raised his arms to parry her blow, but it was too late. Zi Linglong caught Lingu Yin's hand, restricted his cultivation base, and tossed him out of the pavilion. Boom! Lingu Yin landed heavily, causing the stone floor to crack and stirring up a cloud of dust. His face was ghastly pale after he spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at Linglong incredulously. Zi Linglong was not done with Lingu Yin. She rushed out and looked down on him. She said expressionlessly, "You're seeking trouble by mocking my senior brother." Linglong, show restraint. Yang Ming tried to stop her. He had been gratified and delighted when Linglong stood up for him. But he knew he had to stop her when he saw the murderous intent flashing in her eyes. When Jiang Ming called out, Linglong's leg was already raised in midair. She paused for just a fleeting moment before she followed through with the kick. Bam! Lingu Yin was instantly sent flying off the mountain, drawing an arc in the air. A miserable cry rang in the air as he fell. Fortunately, he was able to use his mana to reduce the impact of his fall. Crash! After a loud sound reverberated in the air, a furious cry reached their ears.
Jiang Ming, Zi Linglong, I won't forget this. He's dead. Zi Linglong raised an eyebrow before she made a move to rush down the mountain. Lingu Yin is our fellow disciple.
You'll be punished if you kill him. But he made fun of you. How can I let him go? Linglong's voice grew softer and softer as she lowered her head. Don't worry, senior brother. I promise I won't severely hurt anyone on our sect's ground. Linglong knew she had let her emotions get the better of her. Lingu Yin's earlier actions had reminded her about her unhappy past. She could barely rein in her anger. How could an insignificant character like Lingu Yin mock her senior brother? If this happened in the past, she would have destroyed his body and soul. That's more like it, Jiang Ming said as he patted her head. He chuckled before he continued to say, what you did back there was amazing. Thanks for standing up for me. I told you, I'll protect you, Zi Linglong said as she raised her head. Senior brother, let me deal with those who come looking for trouble. I'll give them such a thorough beating that even their parents won't be able to recognize them after I'm done with them. Jiang Ming laughed. All right. At this time, Momo walked over. She asked with a shocked expression on her face, since when did you grow so strong, junior sister Linglong? I remember you were only at the first stage of the Qi cultivation realm a few years ago, but now, wait, she's only 10, right? Zi Linglong only smiled politely. Yang Ming tried to gloss over the subject and hurriedly said, she's just lucky. Although she grew stronger, she doesn't know how to show restraint. Lucky? I wish I'm as lucky, Momo said. Then her expression turned sheepish as she said, I really didn't know junior brother Lingu is like that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought him here. As the saying goes, you can find all sorts of birds in a big forest. Forget about him. Let's head back inside, senior sister Momo, Jiang Ming said. It's fine. I should take my leave now, Momo said as she shook her head. Then, she waved at Zi Linglong and said, Linglong, visit Jiuyang Peak when you're free. We have delicious food there. All right, senior sister. Zi Linglong smiled sweetly. When Momo turned around, her smile vanished immediately and was replaced by a frown. When Momo disappeared down the mountain, Zi Linglong said in a low voice, "Senior brother, she's not sincere." "How do you know that?" Jiang Ming asked curiously. "It's just a gut feeling." Zi Linglong shrugged. "What amazing instincts you have. Anyway, you must remember this, Linglong. It doesn't matter if she's sincere or insincere as long as she doesn't look for trouble with us. Moreover, you must keep a low profile, understand? You sound more and more like Master, senior brother. You're still young, so you don't know how treacherous humans are. Anyway, earlier you should have just gritted your teeth and endured it. It would be over in just an instant. If you really need to vent your anger, you can beat him up when no one's around. You can even pour Fi." Xiang Ming trailed off. Then he cleared his throat awkwardly before he continued to say, "In any case, you're only 10 years old. If you really kill Lingu Yin, who's a foundation establishment cultivator, once word of it spreads, it'll cause a huge commotion. At that time, it'll be difficult for you to keep a low profile. I'll keep your words in mind, senior brother." "All right, go back and cultivate." "Yes, senior brother." Jiang Ming nodded in satisfaction as he watched Zi Linglong fly toward the bamboo house. Then, he returned to his recliner. He rocked it slightly, enjoying the peace. With just a thought, he called up the human paths records. When Jiang Ming saw Momo's information, he could not help but frown. Name Jiang Ming. Cultivation base, core formation realm, real core cultivation method, grand path, almighty method, sutra spell, cold breeze, sword technique, wind control, timely rain, fire talisman, fireball, special ability, none. Item, human path records, basic formation almanac, basic talisman almanac, flowing cloud sword, flowing cloud ring, god of cooking almanac, farming almanac. Jiang Ming's MU attributes did not seem to have changed, but he was experiencing huge changes every day. Currently, he was nearly at the peak of the real core realm. The next step was to temper his core so that it would gain the attribute of immortality and turn into a golden core. After obtaining the golden core, it would determine the length of his lifespan. He scanned through his status, barely paying any attention to it. He looked at the human path records that would display the information of the people he met. Name, Jiang Momo. Gender, female. Cultivation base. Late-stage foundation establishment realm background, disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Jiuyang Peak. Note, she's actually from the Yinmo Sect. Jiang Ming was speechless when he saw their relationship value. Based on Momo's earlier behavior, he had expected their relationship value to be at least 60 if not 70. 59 did not even reach the passing mark. Their relationship had a value of 59. That was an awkward number. From the way Momo acted just now, he would have thought that their relationship was at least a 60 if not 70. To his surprise, it did not even reach the passing mark. Yinmo Sect? Jiang Ming frowned. That name did not ring any bells. Is she a spy or did she leave the sect to join Jiuyang Sect? He had no way of knowing, but he had no intentions of pursuing this matter. As long as it did not affect him, he would not intervene. He did not care about anything else, nor did he have the capability to care. It was best to maintain a laissez-faire attitude. Investigate the situation at Chu Yang Peak. Jiang Ming chuckled. Did you come for the Yinmo Sect, Jiuyang Peak, or yourself? It seems like you weren't being friendly because of our relationships as fellow disciples. I hope you won't have funny ideas, Momo. Swish. The human path records flipped to another page that displayed Lingu Yin's information. Jiang Ming felt even more speechless after he read the page's content. Name, Lingu Yin. Gender, male. Cultivation base, early stage foundation establishment realm background, disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Jiuyang Peak. Note, he's a disciple of the Yinmo Sect. Status, heavily injured by Zi Linglong and has escaped back to Jiuyang Peak. What a surprise. There's one from the Yinmo Sect and there's one from a devil sect. This means there's a lot of spies in Jiuyang Sect, and Jiang Ming felt chills running up his spine. He had heard of devil sects before. They were mentioned in many books. The devil sects were hunted down and eradicated. None of them existed. At least not openly. If it were not for the human path records, he would not have suspected there was someone from a devil sect near him. The negative relationship value shocked him as well. Although you were beaten quite miserably, I wasn't the one who beat you. Why are you holding a grudge against me? This value indicated that Lingu Yin would not rest until got his revenge. I hope you won't force me to act Lingu Yin. After committing Lingu Yin's name to his memory, he planned to monitor Lingu Yin every day through the human path records. After a moment, he mentally wrote the name Yu Cheng on an empty page of the human path records. Name Yu Cheng. Gender male. Cultivation-based Dao seed realm. Background, first seed of Jiuyang Peak. Note, he's actually an elder of the Yinmo Sect. Chills ran up from the base of his spine to his brain as goosebumps erupted on his flesh. Yu Kang was a first seed whose strength was comparable to the sect master, To think he was an elder of a devil sect. There was a nest of devils at Jiuyang Peak. The Jiuyang Sect comprised of 9 peaks. Taiyang Peak, Chu Yang Peak, Shaoyang Peak, Laoyang Peak, Jiaoyang Peak, Liang Peak, Haoyang Peak, Jiyang Peak, and Chunyang Peak. Taiyang Peak was considered the leader of the peaks since its master was the sect master. Each of the peaks was given autonomy. Apart from the declining Chu Yang Peak, the other peaks were improving day by day. Why would a devil sect's elder become a first seat in the Jiuyang Sect? It sounds so far-fetched. I don't understand this at all. After thinking for a while, Jiang Ming still could not figure it out, so he decided to leave the matter aside for now. Then he wrote down the names of the other first seats on the human path records. Fortunately, the others were not outsiders. They were genuine members of the Jiuyang Sect, the Bishui Sect, and the Yinmo Sect. I wish I didn't find out about this. Now that I know, I feel really uneasy. I'm still too weak. I need to cook more and farm more. Jiang Ming could not help the unease that rose in his heart. How he wished the human path records could show a person's past. Alas, it did not have the function yet. The Jiuyang Sect was rather stable. There were no strange happenings, no reports of disciples suddenly going missing in the last 8 years. The sect master was powerful and the disciples were healthy. With this thought in mind, Jiang Ming felt slightly better. My brain is hurting from all this thinking. After a moment, Jiang Ming studied the contents of the Basic Formation Almanac. He planned to focus on formations and become a formation master. He wanted to set up a peerless grand formation on the mountain to ensure everyone's safety. There was also Ling Long. He had to take care of her. Jiang Ming closed his eyes and comprehended the information from the almanac. He had learned about formations previously, but he had barely scratched the surface with his knowledge. Jiang Ming diligently studied the almanac, determined to work hard. Xianxia Peak. There were throngs of people in the numerous halls scattered across the mountain. It was clearly much livelier than Chu Yang Peak. Inside the highest hall, Master, Ziling Long is only 10 years old, but she easily injured me. She's clearly abnormal. Can we do something with this information? Ling Huyin inquired softly. Yu Cheng had the erudite air of a first seat. He stared at his disciple and said coldly, "Did you forget that I told you not to trouble the Kuyang Peak without my permission?" "But why, Master?" Ling Guyin was puzzled. "That old geezer Gu Hai is clearly unfit to be a first seat." Ling Guyin stopped talking when he saw Yu Cheng's gaze turn colder. "You imbecile! Get out," Yu Cheng said frostily. Ling Guyin shuddered and hurriedly retreated. Chuyang Fang Gu Hai, 10-year-old Zi Ling Long. Yu Cheng muttered under his breath as he closed his eyes. "You were lucky previously. I shouldn't act for now. I have to stay out of this. I'll wait." Although this was just basic knowledge, it surpassed the information contained in the books on Chu Yang Peak. This is much harder than farming. Yang Ming sighed. Why can't I master this with a single tap of my finger? After complaining to himself, he left his room to prepare dinner. As usual, Jiang Ming was rewarded for cooking dinner. He went to the rooftop after he was done cleaning up to gaze at the stars. At this moment, Zi Linglong was not cultivating. She was sitting next to him. The night was quiet. When it grew colder and colder, the duo finally returned to their respective rooms. After returning to his room, Jiang Ming extracted the cultivation he earned today. When he was done, he was only a step away from reaching the Golden Core realm. Apart from that, his body had also grown stronger again. The next day, Jiang Ming woke up, made breakfast, ate breakfast, fetched water, chopped wood, and did some cleaning. Individually, they did not amount too much, but collectively, it was a different story. After that, he went to his vegetable farm. He tended the land he tilled yesterday and the land that was now empty after he had harvested the vegetable. Then, he planted the spiritual rice that Momo had given him. He woke up, made breakfast, ate it, fetched water, chopped wood, and did some cleaning. They did not amount to much individually, but they gave him a good amount collectively. Finally, he went to his vegetable farm. He tended to the plot of land he toiled yesterday and the plot that was now empty after yesterday's harvest. He planted the spiritual rice Momo gave him. Since it was his first time planting it, he decided to use the gourd he planted as a model. He watered it by casting timely rain. It's done. I wonder if it'll grow well. Yang Ming did not feel very confident at all. Fortunately, he had plenty of time on his hands so he would be able to monitor its growth. Congratulations on planting a spiritual crop for the first time. Reward 2 years worth of cultivation and a special ability, the Great Akasa Formless Sword Chi. Wow, a special ability. Jiang Ming was pleasantly surprised. Based on his knowledge, those who gained special abilities in Jiuyang Sect were few and far in between. Gu Hai had only gained one special ability. Even then, he had yet to master his special ability. Those with cultivation bases below the Purple Mansion realm did not even have the right to think about special abilities. When Jiang Ming calmed down, realization dawned on him. It's clear that the rewards for farming are the greatest. It seems like the system is really trying to turn me into a farmer. But he trailed off as he surveyed his prospering plots of land before he smiled. Farming is the best. It's the most honorable act. Farmers are the greatest. Following that, Jiang Ming returned to the recliner and lay down again. As he rested, he studied the method of cultivating the great Akasa formless sword chi. When he finally got a grasp of it, he sighed. It was much more difficult than the basic formation almanac.
So difficult to cultivate there.
Yang Ming felt helpless.
So weak or say.
I've changed by the Grand Path Almighty Sutra method, so why is my comprehension skill so mediocre? A mountain of treasures sat right in front of him, but he could not even touch it. This sucks. He stood up and paced around the courtyard before finally sitting down again with a helpless expression on his face. After a while, he decided to return to his room. Since his junior sister was cultivating and did not want to eat, he could have a moment of rest. As soon as he returned to his room, he sat cross-legged on the bed and absorbed the cultivation he was rewarded with today. Rumble. When he activated the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra, his Danshin and real core shook before they burst forth with golden light. As he absorbed the mana, the real core transformed into a golden core. He finally succeeded in breaking through. The golden core was the third stage of the core formation realm. Jiang Ming's vast aura surged in the room. He felt that his aura now was stronger than his master's. I wonder if I'm a match for a purple mansion cultivator, Yang Ming thought to himself doubtfully. In any case, he was not bothered. The most important thing was to continue raising his cultivation base. When Yang Ming finally left his room, it was already late in the evening. The rays from the setting sun were reflected off the tree leaves. It made for rather breathtaking scenery. The only thing this place is lacking is entertainment. Apart from a lack of entertainment, he felt his life here was very comfortable. Jiang Ming made his way to the main pavilion where Chu Yang Peak's library was located. There was something he wanted to check. The library was not big, and the collection of books was also limited. Naturally, the largest library in Jiuyang Sect was on Taiyang Peak, which was governed by the sect master. Although Jiang Ming could visit the library on Taiyang Peak, it was more convenient to visit the library on Chu Yang Peak. Since he had questions about the Golden Core realm, he found some books regarding this subject. His master had once told him that the Golden Core realm was unique. After forming the Golden Core, one could try to break through to the Purple Mansion realm. However, there was something called the Extreme State in the Golden Core realm that would allow one to refine the Golden Core. Jiang Ming was immersed in reading when he sensed Gu Hai's return. When Gu Hai entered the library and saw Jiang Ming, he said, "What a rare sight, are you really reading? Why are you surprised? I used to read." All you read were exotic tales and reading notes. You rarely show up in the library once you're finished with them. Why are you reading books about the Golden Core realm? You're only a cultivator at the 6th stage of the Qi cultivation realm. Hey, don't you think you're getting ahead of yourself? Someone as lazy as you won't be able to form a Golden Core. I'm your first disciple. Don't you think your words are too hurtful? If you weren't my disciple, I wouldn't only be hurtful with my words, I'd kill you with a single strike, Gu Hai retorted. How ruthless. Anyway, Linglong might enter the core formation realm at any time now. I'm trying to learn more about it before that happens. I'll be able to offer some advice if there are things she doesn't understand. Since you've returned, why don't you teach me about this? You're finally behaving like a senior brother. Anyway, why do you need me to teach you? Isn't the books enough? I'd like to know more about the Golden Core's extreme state. The Golden Core's extreme state? Gu Hai thought about it for a moment before walking out of the library. Then, he took a seat in the living room. Jiang Ming hurriedly followed after him. After brewing a pot of tea, he sat next to Gu Hai. If you don't have mind-blowing talents, unyielding willpower, and a powerful cultivation method, it's impossible for you to make the Golden Core transition to its extreme state, Gu Hai slowly said. The Golden Core was the normal state. A Golden Core cultivator could still break through to the Purple Mansion realm without changing the Golden Core to its extreme state. It was rare to be able to push a Golden Core to its extreme state. The only advantages one would receive were perhaps amassing more power and possibly being strong enough to challenge cultivators at a higher realm. The Golden Core was round. In its extreme state, Taoist motifs would appear on it as though it had been blessed by nature. A Golden Core with one motif was known as the first extreme Golden Core. The highest number of motifs in the Jiuyang Sect is a Golden Core with 3 Taoist motifs. With such a Golden Core, one would possess formidable combat prowess. One could challenge a Purple Mansion cultivation. Once one reaches the Purple Mansion realm, one's Dantian would be more developed compared to the average cultivators. Legend has it that the highest number of motifs is 9, also known as the 9th Extreme Golden Core. Every time it appears, it'll cause a disturbance. Such a cultivator would definitely be above his peers. Anyway, this has nothing to do with you. Gu Hai sipped from the teacup after he finished speaking. Jiang Ming's lips twitched. Don't you have any faith in your disciple? Gu Hai only chuckled. Jiang Ming was disappointed by his master's response. After a moment he asked, what about junior sister? There's hope for her. Gu Hai said gruffly, However, she's still too young. Since she reached the peak of the foundation establishment realm at such a young age, I'm worried her temperament might affect her cultivation and hinder her growth. Brat, you're responsible for guiding her. I'm like the golden cudgel. Jiang Ming smiled helplessly. Then, he asked, is there a state higher than the 9th extreme golden core? Gu Hai scoffed. 9 is the limit. Hey, do you think it's easy? There might not even be a single 9th extreme golden core in a millennium. Even those with divine bodies or saint bodies can achieve it easily. With a 9th extreme golden core, it'd be like a walk in the park to suppress an ordinary purple mansion cultivator. Yang Ming nodded. It seemed like this was a feat that could not be achieved by ordinary individuals. After dinner, Jiang Ming was still thinking if his golden core could reach the extreme state. He was not very confident, but he did not let bother him. The next few days flew by in just a blink of an eye. Yang Ming expected Ling Huyin to make a move, but there was no movement from Ling Huyin at all. He was slightly disappointed by the lack of action. Over the past few days, he had begun to clear the land and convert them into fertile land. When Gu Hai discovered this, he almost died from anger. Time was the least valuable thing to a cultivator. It had been close to 1 year since Jiang Ming awakened with the system. Time flew past in just a blink of an eye. He was like a new person now. Name Jiang Ming. Cultivation base, Golden Core, 81st Extreme. Cultivation method, Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra Spell, 10,000 Sword Technique. Cold Breeze Sword Technique, Timely Spring Rain, Rolling Earth Dragon, Wood Control, and others. Special Ability, Great Akasa Formless Sword Chi. Item, Human Path Records, Basic Formation Almanac, Basic Talisman Almanac, Noble Robe, Flowing Cloud Sword, 80 Years of Cultivation Base, and others. After 9 months, Jiang Ming's cultivation base was still at the Golden Core realm. However, he made it to the extreme state and reached the 81st extreme. There were 81 Taoist motifs wrapped around his Golden Core. There was hardly any space left. This was the true limit of the extreme state. What Gu Hai said about 9 Taoist motifs being the limit was merely based on hearsay. Previously, Jiang Ming obtained the 9th Taoist motifs before he manifested the 10th Taoist motifs on his Golden Core. At that time, he could feel that he was still very far from reaching his limit. It was only after Jiang Ming reached the 81st extreme state that he felt it was the limit. He could sense there was no more room for improvements in the Golden Core realm. He could hardly believe it himself that he reached this stage. As for his combat strength, Yang Ming felt that he could kill his master Gu Hai with a single palm strike now. He had obtained more cultivation rewards through the system, but he kept them so he could use them all at once when he wanted to achieve a breakthrough. Currently, he had 80 years worth of cultivation saved up. He had also mastered several spells that would help him with his menial tasks and manual labor. From that, he was rewarded with the 10,000 Sword Technique. The best thing he had obtained so far was the enlightening tea leaves. That was a reward he received from living a carefree life on the mountain for 6 months. When he consumed the 3 leaves he had been given, he achieved some minor accomplishments in comprehending the formations. Currently, he also had a basic mastery over the Great Akasa Formless Sword Chi as well. He only became aware of how terrifying this special ability was after he mastered it. The 10,000 Sword Technique and Cold Breeze Sword Technique paled in comparison. At this moment, dark clouds covered the late evening sky. The distant rumbling of thunder heralded heavy rain. The wind howled and raged, but Jiang Ming's formation kept all disturbances at bay. "This is an amazing formation, senior brother," Zilinglong said. She sat next to Jiang Ming on the rooftop as she watched the wind blow against the trees. The rooftop was now decorated with many plants. A pavilion had also been built. Vines climbed up and twined around the pavilion's pillars, giving it a tranquil and elegant appearance. "Thank you. It's set up by me, after all. That's an assurance of quality of itself," Jiang Ming said. He held a teacup in his hand as he rocked back and forth lazily on the recliner. He sipped from teacup occasionally as he observed his junior sister. He was amazed by her changes over the past few months. She was notably taller compared to a month ago. She was now a slender, elegant, and beautiful young girl. "Why, thank you. It is set up by your senior brother, after all. That's like an assurance of quality." Jiang Ming rocked the chair as he held a teacup in his hand from which he occasionally sipped. He glanced at his junior sister. He was amazed at the changes she was showing throughout these past few months. She was notably taller compared to a month ago. She was now a slender, elegant, and beautiful teenage girl. There was something sweet about her innocence as well. The most remarkable change was the improvement in her cultivation base, which was surprising even by Yang Ming's standards. Perhaps she had awakened her phoenix bloodline. The rate at which she was improving had exceeded everyone's expectations. In the beginning, she was only at the peak foundation establishment realm, but now she's already in the Golden Core realm. That was right. She was now a Golden Core cultivator. She broke through 3 days ago. When Gu Hai had learned about this, he had leaped 3,000 feet up into the air and nearly sprained his back. Crackle. Lightning streaked across the sky, sending a ripple through the mountains. Soon after, the rain began to pour down. The sky was growing darker as well. Senior brother, yeah? Do you plan on staying on this mountain forever? Yes, I have nothing to worry about here. I don't have to fight or compete for anything. I can live a carefree life here. But there's only 3 of us on the mountain. Don't you feel lonely? I don't feel lonely at all. I have you and Master with me. Moreover, it's not like I have nothing to do. I have to make breakfast for you, tidy the place, chop the wood, fetch water, patrol the grounds, fish from the river, or hunt in the woods. Every day is blissful to me. Do you feel bored here, Linglong? I'm never bored when I'm with you, senior brother. Jiang Ming laughed. I'm surprised. You used to like playing outside. You can visit Jiuyang Peak if you're bored. The senior sisters there like you. All right, if it doesn't rain tomorrow, I'll visit Jiuyang Peak. Will you come with me, senior brother? I'll pass. Soon after, the duo returned to their respective rooms. In the room. 3 more days and it'll be a year. I wonder what rewards I'll get. Jiang Ming was looking forward to this a lot. The rewards he received when he reached the 3rd and 6th months were generous. He wondered how generous the reward would be when he hit the 1-year mark. No matter what, he was sure to benefit from it. Then he closed his eyes and tempered his mana. He could manipulate his mana with higher precision now. Following that, he continued to meditate on the great Akasa formless sword chi. In the early stage, he could only conjure up 1 formless sword chi at a time. However, the impact from the strike left him stunned. The next step for him was to launch 2 sword chi at once. The early stage would be considered completed once he could release 9 strikes in a go. Buzz! Jiang Ming shuddered. A terrifying sword consciousness erupted within his body, but it seemed to be restrained by some mysterious power, hence it could only vibrate in the confined space. When it was getting late, he stopped cultivating. He covered himself with a blanket and went to bed. This was his routine. Nothing could wake him while he was asleep, but he would wake up at the 5th of the 5 night watch periods the next day. The sunlight was still dim. Jiang Ming received a few days' worth of cultivation for waking up. It was not much on its own, but once he accumulated enough, it would be spectacular. The courtyard was in slight disarray due to the heavy rain last night. He tidied it up before he went to the back of the mountain. There were now some fruit trees. Linglong had asked their master for low-grade spiritual seeds previously to plant the trees. There was also 10 mu of farmland. Aside from the restricted area at the top of the mountain, he had utilized most of the land. He had 1 mu of vegetables, 1 mu of oilseed rape, 3 mu of paddy, 3 mu of spiritual wheat, and 2 mu of medicinal herbs. They could harvest whatever they wanted to eat here. The lush and verdant view of his farmland never failed to lift his spirits. The paddy and wheat were ready to be harvested. This was the advantage of this world. The crops could be watered with spiritual rain and their growth could be boosted by spiritual gems. There was no need to worry about droughts. He could even keep the wind at bay. Moreover, there was no such thing as the 4 seasons here. The only shortcoming was pests, which needed careful attention from him. However, he had learned to deal with them and took it in his stride. Since the medicinal herbs grew from spiritual seeds, they grew at a slower pace compared to ordinary crops. Jiang Ming placed his hands on his back and strolled along the farmland, reveling in his work. He felt very pleased with himself. When he noticed a pest, he would flick his finger and launch a sword key to kill it without harming the plant at all. His control was very precise now. Despite his progress, he had hidden his cultivation base and was passing off as a 7th stage key cultivation cultivator. That was right. He had adjusted his cultivation base accordingly to show that he had made a little progress. To others, his progress was not terrible, but it was nothing impressive. It was only above average at best. However, this was unacceptable for a first disciple. Nevertheless, he did not care. He was content. Jiang Ming looked at the buildings on the other side. He had been entertaining an idea in his mind for a long time now. That plot of land that the buildings occupied could be used for farming or rearing livestock. However, he shook his head and dismissed the idea in the end. If he demolished the buildings, his master would never forgive him. What happened back then? Jiang Ming wondered to himself. During this time, he had been secretly investigating Chu Yang Peak's sudden decline in the past. He wanted to know Gu Hai had given up on himself. He and Linglong, whom Gu Hai brought back from the mountains, were Gu Hai's only disciples. Why did Gu Hai not recruit more disciples? After strolling for a while, he headed back to prepare breakfast. Meanwhile, Jiang Ming was about to go fishing when he saw a few figures approaching their peak. They were dressed in disciple robes, but they did not ascend the mountain from below. This was a blatant sign of disrespect. Jiang Ming's expression turned cold immediately. Here comes the vanguard. The few figures sped toward Jiang Ming. Despite not having a clear look, he had a good guess about who they were. Whoosh! The human path records flipped open. Name Lingu Yin, gender, male, cultivation base, early stage of the foundation establishment realm, background, disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Jiuyang Peak. Note, he's a disciple of the Yinmo Sect. Status, Under his master's Yue Cheng instructions, he incited a few disciples from Liang Peak to provoke Chu Yang Peak. He looked for his friend Jia Guang and said that Chu Yang Peak has declined. He also said that its first seat Gu Hai has a terrible cultivation base and is not worthy of being a peak master. He also said Chu Yang Peak has 2 disciples who are not even in the core formation realm. He said those on Chu Yang Peak are a waste of space and resources. He instigated Jia Guang by saying since Chu Yang Peak master is shameless they should challenge Chu Yang Peak's disciples for the sake of Li Yang Peak's first seat. Ling Hu Yin. This was the first time Jiang Ming had thoughts about killing someone. A few months had passed since he last saw Ling Hu Yin, but it seemed like Ling Hu Yin's cultivation base did not improve at all. In fact, this was common among cultivators. It took years to make minor improvements in the foundation establishment realm. As for their relationship value, it seemed to have improved slightly. Nevertheless, the value of -82 still meant that Ling Hu Yin would kill given the chance. As for Ling Hu Yin's status, he felt rather speechless after reading it. Indeed, schemers would choose to instigate others to achieve their goals. Clearly, Ling Hu Yin and Jiuyang Peak were going to borrow Liang Peak's hands to act. Although Jiang Ming did not descend the mountain often, he was aware of the general situation outside. Liang Peak's first seat, Dongfang Lai, was a stubborn person with a fiery character. He disdained Chu Yang Peak's Gu Hai the most and had proposed on multiple occasions to strip Gu Hai of his rank. However, his proposal had never been approved due to various reasons. With this, it was only natural that Dongfang Li's disciples did not have good impressions of Kuyang Peak. However, since Jiang Ming and Ziling Long spent most of their time on the mountain, the others could hardly find chances to look for trouble. Master didn't return even though it rained heavily last night. He must be held up by something. Is Yu Kang trying to take advantage of this? Is that why he sent Ling Hu Yin to cause trouble? With this thought in mind, Yang Ming hurriedly rushed back. When Jiang Ming returned, Ziling Long was already there. At this moment her expression was frosty, but flames of fury burned in her eyes. When she saw Jiang Ming, her expressions eased. It was as though the thunder subsided and the storm had passed. She smiled and called out softly, "Senior brother, we've got company." Jiang Ming jogged over and said, "I might need to trouble you again. Leave this to me, they're all clowns," Ziling Long said. She did not mind dealing with these people at all. "However, you won't be able to keep your strength a secret now. I never wanted to keep it a secret in the first place. Alright, do you what you must." Okay. The duo briefly conversed as 6 figures landed on the greeting platform. The person in the lead had long hair, sparkling eyes, and was dressed in a blue robe. Although he was handsome, his arrogance twisted his features. He lifted his chin slightly and smiled disdainfully when he saw Jiang Ming. Then, he asked, "Are you Jiang Ming of Chu Yang Peak?" "I'm Jia Guang of Liang Peak." The others looked at the duo with disdainful expressions on their faces as well. "Someone should teach you proper etiquette," Ziling Long said furiously. "The sect rules clearly state that disciples should ascend the mountain via the steps if they want to visit, and you should address the first disciple as your senior. You flew here and addressed my senior brother by his name. This is a blatant provocation. You should be punished according to the sect rules," Jia Guang scoffed. 8 out of the 9 first seats are in the Dao Seed realm at least. Chu Yang Peak's first seat is the only one in the Purple Mansion realm. Moreover, he only just entered the Purple Mansion realm. Don't you feel ashamed? The other peaks have at least 100 disciples each. Look at Chu Yang Peak with its 2 disciples, you're mere children. Moreover, I heard Chu Yang Peak's first disciple spends his day chopping wood, fetching water, and farming. Chu Yang Peak is an embarrassment to Jiuyang Sect. What a joke. You're leeches, wasting the sect's resources. Any random elder from Liang Peak is more qualified than Gu Hai. That's right, you're dragging the entire sect down. If Gu Hai isn't an old friend of the sect master, he would have been removed from his post long ago. He's nothing but a crazy drunkard. Jia Guang grew more excited as he spoke. Jiang Ming's expression of anger only served as his fuel. "According to the sect rules, any disciple who insults a first seat will be executed," Jiang Ming said frostily. "Executed?" Jia Guang laughed. "Who's going to do that? You or her? Don't make me laugh. Moreover, how are you going to prove I insulted a first seat? Who'd believe you? Oh, don't bother threatening me with your master Gu Hai, no one cares about him." She looked at Jia Guang as though he was a dead man walking. However, she did not make a move. Instead, she looked at Jiang Ming. "Insulting our master is no different from insulting us," Yang Ming said tonelessly. "However, it's inauspicious to kill someone on the mountain. Let's just destroy his cultivation base." "Alright," Ziling Long's eyes flashed. After a slight pause, Jia Guang laughed as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. "Both of you are going to destroy my cultivation base?" Jiang Ming. "Sorry, I mean senior brother Jiang, you only know how to farm, and you're only a 7th stage Qi cultivation cultivator. Ziling Long, you're just a girl. Both of you really think you can destroy my cultivation base?" He spat on the ground after he finished speaking. That's it. Zi Linglong walked over. Jia Guang laughed again. He tilted his head slightly and said to Ling Guyin, "See, isn't this better than challenging them? With just a few words I can make them come to us. It won't be our fault if they get hurt. After all, we're just defending ourselves." Then Jia Guang looked at the others and said, "Listen up. We came here to pay our respects and plan to ask that old geezer Gu Hai to share his cultivation knowledge with us." However, not only did his two disciples not welcome us, but they even insulted us. We wanted to leave, but they wouldn't allow us to leave. They wanted to destroy our cultivation bases. With that, we had no choice but to defend ourselves. In the process, we accidentally hurt them. Yes, it was an accident. We barely used 1/10 of our strength, but they were injured. Then Jia Guang said mockingly, "He's a first disciple. But he's so useless. No wonder Master often complains about Gu Hai wasting the sect's resources. Both he and his disciples don't make any contributions to the sect at all." That's right. The duo wasn't sensible and tried to look for trouble without reason. Ling Guyin chimed in mockingly. He cupped his fists at Jia Guang as he silently stepped backward. Despite his words, he thought to himself, "Idiot. Zi Linglong is terrifying. You'd be lucky to end up crippled. You're the perfect tool for me to make that dumb mule Dongfang Li leap into a fit of rage and vent his anger on Chu Yang Peak. If we can snatch the position of another first seat." Ling Guyin could not help but smile when he thought about these things. At this moment, Zi Linglong made a move. Zi Linglong is only 10 years old. How powerful can she be? Jia Guang sneered. Although he could not sense it, he was certain she was only at the 4th stage of the Qi cultivation realm at most. He waved his arm and erected a barrier before him, planning to use it to block Zi Linglong's punch. What? To Jia Guang's horror and shock, the barrier shattered when Zi Linglong's fist connected with it. It was too late for him to react. He might have been careless and underestimated her, but even if he were prepared, the outcome would still be the same. Bam! Jiang Guang reeled from the punch. He bent forward like a shrimp. Blood spurted out of his mouth as he cried out. What was most terrifying was that he felt his dantian explode due to the forceful push of her mana. Just like that, his sea of qi shattered and his cultivation base was destroyed. He screamed in despair as he fell off the mountain. "You're not going anywhere," Zi Linglong said when she saw Ling Hu trying to make a run for it. With a swift strike of her palm, she destroyed his cultivation base and sent him flying off the mountain as well. Foundation establishment cultivators were like ants to her. Bam! The others were still dumbfounded when Zi Linglong turned to them. She slapped them before sending them flying off the mountain as well. However, she did not destroy their cultivation bases. Then, she placed her hands on her back and looked down the mountain. She said haughtily, "Take the two of them away. I don't want them to taint Chu Yang Peak with their presence." Yang Ming frowned. Zi Linglong turned around and made her way back to Yang Ming. Her domineering and arrogant aura vanished and were replaced by innocence. She grabbed his arm and swung it lightly as she asked, "How did I do, senior brother?" Then she blinked her big eyes at him as though she was waiting for him to praise her. Under the pavilion on the rooftop, Yang Ming rocked back and forth on the recliner. He was satisfied with how Zi Linglong had dealt with the situation. However, although it was just for a second, he had sensed the domineering aura that seemed incongruent with her age. Strange. "Senior brother, I destroyed Jia Guang and Ling Huyin's cultivation bases. Will their masters give us trouble in the future?" Zi Linglong was squatting next to him. A hint of worry could be seen in her eyes. "If they have any sense of propriety, they won't look for trouble with us," Jiang Ming said to assuage her worries. "They might make things difficult for Master though. No master is the one who would make things difficult for them." He looked at Zi Linglong and smiled. After all, their master had a source of confidence now. Master is going to make things difficult for them. Zi Linglong pouted. "Can I challenge the Tower of Trials now? Once my cultivation base is revealed, the sect will turn its attention to me. At that time, I'll be able to share some of Master's burdens as well. Let the bullets fly for now." "What do you mean, senior brother?" "Let's wait and see. You can go to the Tower of Trials tomorrow. Master should be back by then." "All right, senior brother, if you say so." Zi Linglong's eyes sparkled. "I'm going to cultivate now. Call me if anything happens. I'll kill them if they dare to show up again." "Can you rein in your temper? You're a girl, for heaven's sake." "All right, go on then." Yang Ming wanted to tousle her hair, but he stopped before he placed his hand on her head. His junior sister had grown up after all. Zi Linglong pouted slightly. She raised her head to his palm and shook it so it was as though he was patting her head. "Linglong." Jiang Ming could not help but smile. Zi Linglong left with a giggle. Clearly, she was no longer thinking of venturing out of the mountain. Zi Linglong looked at Jiuyang Peak from her room with a frosty expression on her face. "When my cultivation base improves again, I'll remove Yinmo Sect and Bishui Sect. Jiuyang Sect is supposed to be isolated, but it has now become the center of the vortex. After this matter is resolved, I'll activate a ruin and boost my strength further." She sat cross-legged on her bed and continued tempering her mana. As for her spells and special abilities, she decided to just rely on her peerless talent, Jiuyang Peak. Master, you must do something. Jia Guang was crying on his knees inside the great hall. He had taken medicinal pills, but he still appeared weak. Your cultivation base was destroyed? Who did this? The audacity. The first seat Dongfang Li was infuriated. His face turned red and his whiskers bristled. The great hall surged, immediately filled with a violent and hot energy. The disciples standing at the side had to resist it with their own cultivation bases. Jie Guang, who was injured, could not endure this. He fell to the floor and spat out blood immediately. Dongfang Li hastily withdrew his energy and sent some of qi into this disciple's body to stabilize his condition. Tell me what happened. Jia Guang was about to explain when he recalled his cultivation base had been destroyed by a little girl. How was he going to explain that to his master? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Speak, Dongfang Li barked. His voice resounded across the great hall. Master, Jia Guang started before he began to say, I couldn't stand the fact that First Seat Guhai has a terrible cultivation base and has almost no disciples. He always opposes you, so I thought I'd teach him a lesson on your behalf. That's why I went to look for his 2 disciples to help you vent your anger. I didn't expect them to destroy my cultivation base. Jia Guang was deliberately vague with his words regarding the person who destroyed his cultivation base. Dongfang Li narrowed his eyes that flashed with curiosity. He had a fiery temper, but he was no fool. Gu Hai, he'd never do that. He only has 2 disciples there. Which one of them did it? Although Dongfang Li's voice was calm, it was like the calm before the volcano erupted. Jia Guang said in a small voice, The female disciple, Ziling Long. Dongfang Li was stunned. That 10-year-old girl. Jia Guang prostrated himself immediately. Dongfang Li was so furious that he began to laugh. I thought you were going to tell me old Gu's first disciple Jiang Ming is actually very powerful despite acting like an idiot all the time. He's not even 20 years old, right? If he could destroy your cultivation base, I'd be delighted. However, you're saying that you were beaten by a 10-year-old girl. Are you sure? Jia Guang shuddered. I can't believe that old man recruited such a wonderful disciple. This is amazing, Dongfang Li said with a hint of admiration. He looked at his disciple with an unprecedented cold expression and said, Don't think I'm unaware that you hurled insults at them and provoked them when you were at Chu Yang Peak. You didn't expect to have your cultivation base destroyed, did you? Although I have a temper, I've always been reasonable. I compete with that old man because we're both first seats. I have the right to compete with him. On the other hand, you're not a first seat first disciple or even a notable disciple of the sect. Who right do you have to challenge another peak? Who gave you the right to trample on another peak's honor? It's another story if you won, but your cultivation base was destroyed by a 10-year-old girl. You still have the guts to complain? What did I do to deserve a trash-like disciple like you? Dongfang Li said decisively. I hereby announce that Jia Guang is expelled from my peak. Let him serve as an example to the others. Huo Yun, bring some gifts to Chu Yang Peak as a token of apology, then challenge their first disciple. Master, no, don't expel me. After his initial shock, colors drained from Jia Guang's face. He hastily kowtowed. Master, Huo Yun, who was dressed in a bright red robe, cupped his fists and bowed. 9 months ago, Jiang Peak's disciple Ling Huyin went to Chu Yang Peak. He insulted the people there and got beaten up. This time, Ling Huyin came to look for junior brother Jia, and they went to Chu Yang Peak shortly after. In the end, both of them had their cultivation bases destroyed. There must be more than meets the eye. Is that so? Dongfang Li's eyes flashed. The hostility in his eyes intensified when he looked at Jie Guang. He waved his sleeve. A blast of wind carried Jie Guang out of the great hall. He landed outside the sect's gate. Yu Cheng, you sly fox. Dongfang Li gritted his teeth. How dare you use me in your quest to take over Chu Yang Peak? Should I still go over there, master? Hu Yun asked softly. Of course, Dongfang Li glared at Hu Yun. We must apologize if we're in the wrong. It's not wrong for first disciples to challenge their peers. You can beat Jiang Ming up, but don't destroy his cultivation base. Understood. Huo Yun left Xiang Peak. First Seat Yue Cheng sent Ling Huyin to the restraining grounds. He announced that Ling Huyin was punished for breaking sect rules. A disciple with a destroyed cultivation base would only end up dead there. Dongfang Li, for Meli Jun or fiery temper and vindictive nature, you'd surely send your disciples over to stir up trouble to vent your frustrations even if you know I'm behind this. Yu King chuckled. You'll certainly send Hu Yun there. Junior brother Zuo Han. Has it started, senior brother? Isn't this too rushed? It has begun. It's not rushed at all. Everything is within my control. Dongfang Li might be a careful brute, he's not shrewd. Go on, remember, don't let anyone notice you. Don't worry about that. Under the pavilion on the rooftop in Chu Yang Peak, Jiang Ming sensed something and he rose to his feet and gazed into the distance. With just a thought, the human path records flipped open. Whoosh! It stopped at the page that displayed Yu Cheng's information. He's an elder of Yinmo Sect. Relationship 430 status. After his disciple Ling Guyin told him that he had lost on Chu Yang Peak, he sent his disciple to the restraining tower as punishment. He predicted that Dongfang Li would seek revenge and send his disciple Huo Yun to Chu Yang Peak. He summoned his junior brother Zuo Han and instructed Zuo Han to kill Jiang Ming and Zi Linglong after Huo Yun was done. He intends to make Dongfang Li the scapegoat. He wants to kill two birds with a stone with his plan. Jiang Ming inhaled sharply upon reading Yue Qing's status. How vicious! Jiang Ming could not help but give Yue Qing a thumbs up for his plans. If he and his junior sister were ordinary cultivators, they would have died. If they died, Dongfeng Li would have a hard time defending himself. Even if Dongfeng Li knew Yu Cheng was behind the matter, Dongfeng Li would have no evidence to support his claims. He's coming for us in broad daylight. This isn't the kind of boldness that ordinary men possess. Jiang Ming was rather impressed by Yu Cheng. In the end, Chu Yang Peak could only blame itself for declining to such a state. Apart from the first seat, there were only 2 disciples on the peak. There was no elder to manage the peak's affairs at all. Whoosh! With just a thought from Jiang Ming, the human path records flipped again. He wrote another name down on the page mentally. Name, Zuo Han. Gender, male. Cultivation base, Purple Mansion Realm. Background, elder of Jiuyang Sect's Jiang Peak. Note, he's actually an elder from Yinmo Sect. Relationship, -93. Status, he's heading toward Chu Yang Peak under his senior brother's orders. He plans to deliver the killing blow after Huo Yun leaves. I knew it. Jiang Ming shook his head. Jiuyang Peak had already turned into the devil's nest, but no one has realized it yet, / perhaps there are those who are aware of it but have yet to take action due to a lack of evidence. There's also a chance they're also preparing to make a move themselves, Jiang Ming thought to himself. In any case, he had no way of verifying it. Since his relationship value with Zuo Han was -93, there was no doubt that Zuo Han would definitely kill him given the chance. Since he's just a Purple Mansion cultivator, it should be easy for me to kill him, Jiang Ming muttered to himself. Despite his words, he did not feel very confident. Let alone fighting an expert, he had never fought a battle before. He felt a hint of anticipation rise in his heart when he thought about this. Just as Jiang Ming turned around, he saw a figure speeding over. The figure came to a stop in the air, cupped his fists together at Jiang Ming and said, Huo Yun, Liang Peak's first disciple, has come for a visit. Huo Yun's voice had yet to fade, but he had already landed on the greeting platform. This was a special privilege only enjoyed by first disciples. They did not need to take the stairs up the mountain. Jiang Ming leaped off the rooftop and walked over. According to etiquette, he had to welcome Huo Yun. Swoosh! At the same time, the human path records flipped itself open again and showed him Huo Yun's information. Name, Huo Yun. Gender, male. Cultivation base, Core Formation Realm, Golden Core. Background, first disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Liang Peak. Relationship, 49. Status, he's under his master's orders to come here and apologize before challenging Jiuyang Peak's first disciple. Jiang Ming could not help but smile after seeing Huo Yun's information. It seems like first seat Dongfang is really unwilling to suffer even a little bit of loss. However, I have to admit his behavior is commendable. He sent his disciple here to apologize first before challenging me. These are all in line with the sect rules. Jiang Ming was rather surprised by his and Huo Yun's relationship value. 49 meant that Huo Yun had a somewhat good impression of him. At this time, Zi Linglong flew out and landed next to him. Then, she asked in a lowered voice, should I kill him? Let's see what happens. Jiang Ming smiled faintly in response. Huo Yun furrowed his brows slightly. The 2 disciples of Chu Yang Peak might be talking softly, but someone with his cultivation base could easily hear their conversation. He studied Zi Linglong carefully, but he could not get a feel of her at all. Nevertheless, he had his guard up after learning his junior brother's Jiaguang cultivation base had been destroyed by the little girl. Senior brother Huo, Jiang Ming called out as he cupped his fists together at Huo Yun. Senior brother Jiang, Huo Yun said without beating around the bush. Earlier this morning, my junior brother Jiaguang came here to provoke Chu Yang Peak without my master's knowledge. It's reasonable that he had his cultivation base destroyed. As punishment, my master has also expelled him from Liang Peak. In any case, this incident is Liang Peak's fault. My master sent me here to apologize, Huo Yun said. Then he brought a jade box out and opened it, revealing a translucent spiritual crystal inside. He handed it over and said, this is a middle-grade spiritual crystal. Please accept it as a token of our apology. Senior brother Huo, you shouldn't have, Jiang Ming said as he gestured to Linglong to accept it. It would have been an insult if Liang Peak had given them a middle-grade spiritual crystal as a token of apology. A middle-grade spiritual crystal was acceptable. This was just a matter between the peaks after all. Please come in, senior brother Huo, Jiang Ming said as he turned to the side. No, it's fine, Huo Yun said as he shook his head. Then, he hesitated briefly before he added, since Jia Guang's cultivation base has been destroyed despite his wrongdoings, it's still a humiliation to Liang Peak. Therefore, as the first disciple of Liang Peak, I have to do something about it. I'd like to challenge you, senior brother Jiang. Huo Yun felt rather embarrassed after saying these words. Linglong scoffed. Then, she stepped forward and said, how ridiculous. You have no right to challenge my senior brother. After saying that, Linglong no longer restrained her aura. Energy surged out immediately, causing the air to ripple and distort. Then she said, you're a good person. It's unfortunate you have a master with such a short temper. Let's do this. I'll fight in my senior brother's stead. Linglong clenched her hand as a red sword materialized. Meanwhile, Huo Yun's expression turned grim upon sensing Linglong's aura. He felt slightly shaken by it. When he looked at the young girl with such a powerful aura, he inexplicably felt as though he was facing an insurmountable towering mountain. He even had a strange urge to fall to his knees and worship her. After a brief moment, Huo Yun took a deep breath to suppress the fear within himself before he said, junior sister Linglong, from what I know you're only 10 years old, but you've already possessed such a profound cultivation base. You must be in the golden core realm now, right? You're truly talented. Even the young geniuses of the sect can't compare to you. Why do you hide your strength? I'm challenging the Tower of Trials tomorrow, Linglong said indifferently before she made her move. Using her sword as a medium, she launched thousands upon thousands of sword kiss using her spiritual ki toward Huo Yun. There were so many sword ki that they looked like raindrops. Huo Yun's expression changed immediately, and he hastily retreated 100 meters. He watched as countless sword ki merged into a towering sword ki in just a blink of an eye. He flew up and waved his hand before he channeled his mana into his sword to parry the attack. Alas, he was sent flying from the impact of the collision and crashed against the mountain face. So powerful, Jiang Ming exclaimed. Nevertheless, he knew if he were the one who faced that attack, it would not even leave a scratch on his skin even if he did not defend himself. Huo Yun, the first disciple of Liang Peak, could not even withstand a strike from Linglong. This showed how terrifying she was. She's only 10 years old, and the rapid improvement of her cultivation can be explained by her bloodline awakening. However, how can her attack be so powerful as well? Moreover, she's wielding her sword like a veteran. Is she a child of destiny? Heaven's chosen one? Jiang Ming felt like scratching his head when he thought about this. Jiang Ming knew if his junior sister was truly the child of destiny, she would definitely be a prominent figure in the future. However, this also meant that she would attract trouble to herself. He sighed. In any case, she's my beloved junior sister, and I've watched her grow up. I'll kill anyone who dares to bully her. This thought had only just appeared in Jiang Ming's mind when he saw Huo Yun flying back. A trace of blood could be seen on the corner of his lips, and the expression of shock on his face had yet to fade. You came back for more? Linglong frowned. No, Huo Yun hastily shook his head. Then, he said with a bitter smile, you're too powerful, junior sister. I'm no match for you. If I may ask, how do you usually cultivate? Linglong did not respond to Huo Yun. She only stood silently behind Jiang Ming. Upon seeing this, Huo Yun was not angry at all. Instead, he looked at Yang Ming and said, Senior brother Yang, I have a feeling you're concealing your cultivation base as well. I'm just an average cultivator, Yang Jing said with a smile. Is that all? Yes, I should report back to my master now, Huo Yun said as he shook his head. Then, he added, the sect values geniuses. Once your strength is revealed, a grand elder from Jiuyang Peak will definitely come for a visit. After all, Jie Guang came today because he was instigated by Jiuyang Peak's Linghu Yin. Anyway, I should take my leave now. Farewell, I'll visit again another day. Huo Yun left after cupping his fists together at Jiang Ming and Linglong. Jiang Ming nodded and returned the gesture. He looked at Huo Yun's back as he said with a smile, he's very direct. Linglong nodded. Jiang Ming turned to look at Linglong and said, alright, you should return to your cultivation. I'm going to enjoy the scenery here for a while before cooking a delicious meal for you tonight. Alright, I'll go cultivate now, Linglong said excitedly before she skipped away. Following that, Jiang Ming looked in the other direction. In just an instant, his gaze turned frosty as a light glinted at the tips of his fingers. Cultivation base, Purple Mansion Realm. Background, Elder of Jiuyang Sect's Jiuyang Peak. Note, he's actually an Elder of Yinmo Sect. Relationship, individual trace, -6. Status, he's come to Chu Yang Peak under his senior brother's Yue Cheng orders. He plans to deliver the killing blow after Huo Yun avenges his junior brother. He's now watching from a spot 7 kilometers away northeast of Yang Peak while he waits for a chance to strike. Great. His hatred toward me has increased. It seems like he's hell-bent on killing me, Jiang Ming muttered to himself. Upon reading Zuo Han's information again, killing intent rose in his heart. With the information from the human path records, Jiang Ming knew where Zhuo Han was hidden. He could sense Zhuo Han's presence now as well. He glanced back and saw that Ziling Long had already returned to her room. After a brief moment of hesitation, he raised his hand and launched the great Akasa formless sword chi. The sword chi was formless, and it could be easily hidden. This ability was very stealthy. Earlier, halfway up a distant mountain, Zhuo Han stood with his back facing the mountain as he rested his hands on his back. His eyes were fixed on Chu Yang Peak. At this moment he was lost in his thoughts. Senior brother's plan is really impressive. It can kill two birds with one stone. Dongfang Li looked down on Gu Hai to begin with. Now that a conflict has arisen between the two peaks, Gu Hai will go mad if I kill his two disciples after this. Dongfang Li's disciple went to the Chuyang Peak and had his cultivation base destroyed. Hence, he sent his first disciple to Chuyang Peak to challenge its first disciple. At that time, we'll say that Dongfang Li's first disciple accidentally killed Gu Hai's two disciples during the challenge. Gu Hai will definitely lose his mind and not let Dongfang Li go. Finally, after years of planning, one of the peak will fall into our hands. One of our people will definitely get promoted after this. Moreover, this plan will also suppress Liang Peak. If Dongfang Li is punished, on top of Chuyang Peak, we might even get Liang Peak. With that, Jiuyang Sect will definitely be ours. With that as a stepping stone, Zhuo Han muttered to himself as an expression of delight appeared on his face. However, his expression of delight was quickly replaced by one of shock when he saw Huo Yun was sent flying back. How can that girl be so powerful? Impossible. Does she possess a special bloodline? This must be it. This also explains why that old geezer Gu Hai stopped recruiting disciples after that great incident. At that time, he only brought 2 disciples back to the sect. To think he was just trying to mislead everyone. What a shame, Gu Hai. You almost got away with it. Do you think you can reach the heavens with a single leap? I'll send you to the abyss of hell, Zhuo Han said as his killing intent grew stronger. When Huo Yun finally left, he knew it was time for him to make his move. However, when he focused his gaze, he discovered that Jiang Ming was staring straight at him. He watched as Jiang Ming raised his hand and pointed his finger. He was slightly puzzled by this. Following that, without any warning, goosebumps erupted on his flesh as a biting chill suddenly penetrated his heart. He hurriedly erected a protective barrier around himself as his chest glowed with light. Bam! A sword key flew over and landed against Zhuo Han's protective barrier and exploded. Then, it tore through his protective robes, a top-grade weapon, and pierced his body. The sword key tore Zhuo Han's internal organs apart and destroyed his sea of consciousness. With that, Zhuo Han died immediately. The sword key exited from the back of his body and landed against the mountain with a loud boom. The impact of the explosion shocked heaven and earth, and a shockwave swept over the entire Jiuyang Sect in just an instant. Following that, energy surged in the sect as figures shot out and flew toward the source of the commotion, Furos. Yang Jin started when he witnessed the might of his sword chi. How powerful! He was really shocked that he managed to kill Zhuo Han with just a strike. Zhuo Han did not even have time to defend himself. Most importantly, Zhuo Han was a Purple Mansion cultivator. Did I grow stronger again, or is this the destructive force of the great Akasa formless sword chi? At this time, Ziling Long flew over with a shocked expression on her face. When she saw Jiang Ming was safe and sound, she sighed in relief. Then she quickly asked, "What happened, senior brother? I sensed a destructive sword chi earlier." Jiang Ming pointed at the distance and said, "Look over there." The distant mountain peak had been blown off. It was now a mess of debris and rubble. Experts from the sect had already gathered there and cordoned the area off. I was here thinking about what happened today when the mountain peak suddenly crumbled dead, Yang Ming explained. How did that happen? Ziling Long asked. She wondered why this event deviated so greatly from the original track. In her memories, when Lingu Yin came looking for trouble the first time, she and her senior brother had suffered losses. In the end, it was Momo who rescued them. When they told their master about it, he began to spend more time on the mountain and less time traveling. Hence, she had not been surprised when Jia Guang and Ling Huyin came looking for trouble. After all, it happened before in the original timeline. In the original timeline, when her senior brother was injured, their master returned at the crucial time. After that, their master went to Liang Peak and wreaked havoc there. In the end, the matter was never resolved. She knew the events were not 100% similar since she had interfered, but things still followed a general trajectory. However, where did the destructive sword key come from? It definitely did not appear in the original timeline. Otherwise, based on its force, she would definitely remember it. She could tell it was a top special ability. Another thing that confused her was her senior brother's cultivation base. According to the original timeline, his cultivation base should be at the 8th stage of the Qi cultivation realm now. But that was not the case. Although he was carefree, liked silence and solitude, He should not have been so lazy. She was confused by his current cultivation base that was lower compared to the original timeline. Did something change because I interfered? Did I unknowingly hurt his self-esteem when I awoke my phoenix bloodline ahead of time? Is that why he gave up on cultivating? However, it really doesn't seem that way. In fact, Zi Linglong did not care about the deviations of events. As long as she was strong enough, she believed she would be able to handle anything that came her way. However, since this concerned her senior brother, she naturally cared very much. Zi Linglong made up her mind and thought to herself, I should find senior brother some medicinal herbs to help him improve his cultivation base. At this time, Jiang Ming and Zi Linglong saw a group of people circling the mountain as though they were searching for something. Those people only looked at the duo briefly before they resumed their search. Let's go, Linglong, Jiang Ming said as he made his way back to the courtyard. Then, he continued to say, Master should be back tonight. You should tell him you're going to challenge the Tower of Trials tomorrow. You'll be safer if the sect pays attention to you. All right, senior brother, Zi Linglong replied obediently. Jiang Ming nodded before he left to prepare dinner. Meanwhile, several first seats hovered above the distant mountain as they surveyed the mountain peak. After a while, they came to several conclusions. First, the sword chi that damaged the mountain was a peerless ability. Second, the attacker must have a grudge against Zhuo Han. Otherwise, the attacker would not have risked coming to Jiuyang Sect to kill Zhuo Han. Moreover, for the attacker to kill Zhuo Han so easily without giving Zhuo Han a chance to call for help, the attacker had to be a Purple Mansion cultivator at least. Third, the attacker was not hostile toward Jiuyang Sect. Otherwise, the attacker would not have stopped at killing only one person. Fourth, they were almost certain the attacker must have a formidable background. At this time, they thought it was imperative they find out who the attacker was. Otherwise, they would not feel at ease. They wondered how the attacker made it past the sect's grand formation. Was there a spy in the sect? Could it be possible that the attacker was still in the sect? They also had to find out what Zhuo Hao was doing near the Chu Peak. After drawing these conclusions, realization dawned on Dongfang Li, and he narrowed his eyes immediately. Fury rose in his heart, and he was tempted to lash at Yu Kangya. After forcing himself to calm down, he smiled coldly and asked, Were you trying to frame me, Yue Cheng? Frame you? Yue Cheng seemed perplexed. He cupped his fists together at Dongfang Li and asked, Why would you say something like that, senior brother Dongfang? Upon hearing Dongfang Li's words, the other first seats and elders looked over immediately. Dongfang Li kept his eyes on Yue Cheng as he continued to say, 9 months ago, your disciple Linghu Yin went to Chu Yang Peak and provoked old geezer Gu, senior brother Gu's disciples. He insulted the two disciples but ended up getting beat up, so he had to flee with his tails between his legs. Why did Linghu Yin suddenly provoke Chu Yang Peak's disciples? Dongfang Li paused briefly before he said, Linghu Yin came to Liang Peak to look for my disciple Jie Guang previously. Then, the two of them and a few other disciples came to provoke Chu Yang Peak again. Coincidentally, senior brother Gu wasn't around. In the end, Jie Guang and Linghu Yin's cultivation bases were destroyed. I sent my first disciple Huo Yun to Chu Yang Peak to apologize for the matter and to send a middle-grade spiritual crystal as a token of apology. Although the matter was Liang Peak's fault, it's still a humiliation to the peak that Jie Guang's cultivation base was destroyed. Hence, I told Huo Yun to challenge Chu Yang Peak's first disciple after apologizing to vent my anger. This is also in line with the sect rules. However, before Huo Yun even arrived back at Liang Peak, Zhuo Han was killed here. This place is only 7 kilometers away from Chu Yang Peak, and it's under Chu Yang Peak's jurisdiction. Zhuo Han had no business being here at all. Yu Cheng, did you plan to have Zhuo Han silently kill senior brother Gu's disciples after Huo Yun left? If you succeeded, the blame would fall perfectly on me. Were you planning to say that I tried to seek revenge by sending Huo Yun to kill senior brother Gu's disciples because they destroyed Jie Guang's cultivation base? Or were you going to say Huo Yun accidentally killed senior brother Gu's 2 disciples? Whichever one it is, senior brother Gu would have gone crazy and retaliated against me. With that, Chu Yang Peak will no longer have a first seat, making way for a new first seat, right? On top of that, Liang Sect would also be humiliated. Am I right, Yue Cheng? When Dongfang Li spoke, he was almost shouting. It had taken all of his self-control to stop himself from hitting Yue Cheng. Nevertheless, he was rather pleased with himself inwardly. Fortunately, I'm smart and thought about this. Otherwise, this rat would have gotten away with this. No, actually, I would have been blamed for this even if I'm aware of it. I only managed to escape blame because Zhuo Han was killed by a mysterious expert. How dare you vent your anger on the disciples when you're a first seat? Those 2 are the only disciples I have left. One of them is 18 and the other is only 10, but you actually sent Huo Yun to vent your anger? If anything happens to my disciples, I swear I'll avenge them if it's the last thing I do. Dongfang Li's eyelids twitched. He really wanted to retort, but he knew he was in the wrong. In the end, he merely grunted in response. At this time, Jiuyang Peak's first seat placed a firm hand on Gu Hai's shoulder and said, Calm down. Although Dongfang Li has a quick temper, he won't harm the disciples. You don't have to worry about that. There's no doubt first seat Yue's disciple Ling Huyun is in the wrong. He got himself beaten up, and instead of looking for his fellow disciples from Jiuyang Peak for help, he went to seek assistance at Liyang Peak. Yu Kang smiled bitterly. I was only aware of this when my disciple Ling Huyin told me about it after his cultivation base was destroyed. In fact, he had only told me about what happened after I pressed him for answers. My disciple is rather talented, so he's quite proud. 9 months ago he visited Chu Yang Peak. When he was there, he noticed Chu Yang Peak's first disciple was only a Qi cultivation cultivator. He felt contemptuous and envious at the same time. After all, he is talented, but he's just an ordinary disciple. However, senior brother Gu's disciple is a first disciple despite having a low cultivation base. After that, he was beaten by a 10-year-old girl. He could not accept being defeated by a little girl and was filled with resentment and jealousy. These negative feelings grew as time passed, but he did not dare to cause trouble under my watchful eyes. Hence, he went to Liyang Peak to look for his friend Jia Guang. When they found senior brother Gu was away, they went to seek revenge for past insults. They naturally did not expect that their cultivation bases would be destroyed as a result. Yu Cheng paused briefly before he continued to say, when I found out about this, I was furious. Jiuyang Peak rarely gets in trouble, but he went and provoked another peak. His actions are a violation of the sect rules, so I sent him to the restraining tower to punish him. Following that, I sent Zuo Han to Kuyang Peak to apologize. He must have waited here when he saw Hu Yun was at Chuyang Peak. Who knew he would die instead? Dongfang Li, you accuse me of so many things, but from whom should I demand justice for my junior brother's death? Yui Cheng grew more and more agitated as he spoke. The corner of Dongfang Li's lips twitched when he heard Yu Cheng's words. He cursed inwardly. This good-for-nothing Yu Cheng, he's trying to wash his hands off this matter. He even sent Ling Huyin to the restraining tower. He's really ruthless. Even those with intact cultivation bases can hardly last a day there, let alone someone whose cultivation base has been destroyed. Fuck him. He avoided this crisis beautifully. Yu Kang took a deep breath. Then, he bowed at Yan Yan, the sect master of Jiuyang Sect and also the first seat of Taiyang Peak, before he said solemnly, our priority now is to find junior brother Zuo's murderer. Although his cultivation base is average, he's still a purple mansion cultivator? Isn't it like a slap to our faces that he was killed in the sect? I'm certain his murderer is still here. Sect master, I ask that you lock down the sect. We have to search the sect thoroughly and apprehend the murderer. Otherwise, how can we feel at ease? If First Seat Dongfang still suspects I harbor ill intentions after we deal with this matter, I'll gladly be investigated by our fellow First Seats. You're right. Sect Master Yan Yan nodded and swept his gaze across the people gathered there before saying, seal the entrance for now and search for the culprit. The other matters can wait. Based on Yu Kang's words, Ling Huyin's cultivation base was destroyed by Chuyang Peak's 10-year-old disciple. With that, they could assume he had died after being thrown to the restraining tower. If Ling Huyin was dead, it meant that they would not be able to verify the truth. However, since Yue Cheng's punishment of Ling Huyin was rather reasonable, no one could find fault with him. With that, everyone returned to their respective peaks. Gu Hei rushed back to Chuyang Peak. Before he even landed, he could smell the aroma of food in the air. He sighed in relief immediately. If he's cooking, it means nothing serious has happened at this time. Master, you're just in time. Dinner is ready. Jiang Ming emerged from the kitchen with plates in his hands. He placed them on the stone table in the courtyard and smiled at Gu Hai, who was still hovering in the air. What can I say? My timing has always been perfect, Gu Hai said as he flew over to his seat. Then, he quickly picked up a piece of meat with his chopstick and began to eat. After swallowing the meat, he sighed in contentment and rested his chopstick on the table. He looked at Jiang Ming, who had just finished serving the dishes, and Zi Linglong, who was rushing over, before he said, tell me what happened. Don't miss out on any detail. Gu Hai had never been so serious before. After Jiang Ming recounted what had happened, Gu Hai narrowed his eyes as he said, Ling Huyin. Then, he shook his head and said, Linglong, you can't hide your strength anymore. Come with me to the Tower of Trials tomorrow. Zi Linglong naturally had no qualms challenging the Tower of Trials. Linglong is amazing. To think that Huo Yun, the first disciple of Liyang Peak, was sent flying with just a single strike. Dongfang Li, that son of a butch, must be fuming with anger. Gu Hai suppressed his unease and speculations and laughed after hearing about how powerful his disciple was. He was also shocked that a 10-year-old child was a golden core cultivator defeated Hu Ho Yun, the first disciple of Liyang Peak. Huo Yun was a genius who had been cultivating close to a century after all. It's all thanks to your guidance, Master, Ling said obediently. If you didn't awaken your phoenix bloodline, I could be the best teacher in the world and it still wouldn't matter, Gu Hai said. He did not claim undue credit. That's why you shouldn't bother me about my cultivation in the future, Master. Jiang Ming seized the opportunity and said with a smile, if I were talented, everything would go smoothly like it does for junior sister. She reached the golden core realm in less than a year. Look at me, my talents are mediocre. I won't reach that realm even if I cultivate my entire life. You're negating and giving up on yourself. Gu Hai scoffed. You think it's pointless to cultivate just because your talents are mediocre? You don't think you'll ever be an expert? Do you think experts will remain powerful while the weak remain weak? Remember, Ming, cultivation itself is defying the heavens. Cultivators go against the convention, breaking their limits and win against the heavens. I won't deny a talented person will improve quickly, but if you're diligent and persistent, you can achieve great things as well. If you give up now, then there's no doubt you'll end up mediocre. When you're 100 years old and are buried underground, will you be content with how you lived your life? Moreover, you're only 19 years old, but you're already a 7th stage key cultivation cultivator. You may not be the best, but you can also be considered a genius. I'm not giving up on myself, Master. Jiang Ming smiled wryly. Gu Hai did not seem to be in a good mood. He picked up his chopsticks and sent more food into his mouth. With that, his dark expression seemed to lighten. I have to admit that your cooking is improving day by day. This is really delicious. Linglong giggled. Master, I think you're not being fair to senior brother. I mean, I've never seen other disciples chop wood, fetch water, or clean the courtyard without using mana when they're senior brother's age. I've never seen them plant crops over days and months. Don't you think these things show senior brother's determination as well? I don't the other disciples can compare to senior brother's perseverance. You have a point. Gu Hai's hand that was holding the chopstick paused in mid-air. He stroked his beard and looked at Jiang Ming as he said, are you tempering your character by doing these things? I genuinely like labor and menial tasks, Jiang Ming replied sheepishly. You're hopeless. I really shouldn't have asked, Gu Hai said indignantly. His chopsticks left after images in the air as he picked up more food. He finished his meal in no time at all and returned to the main pavilion. Jiang Ming was stunned. Linglong pouted. I can't believe he didn't leave anything for us at all. With this, Gu Hai's voice rang from afar. Cook something else for your junior sister. Linglong covered her mouth and giggled. Then, she said softly, I'll find some spiritual items that can help improve your cultivation base. We'll cultivate and become immortals together. Don't worry, your senior brother isn't that weak, Jiang Ming said as he ruffled her hair. Wait here. I'll cook you something. After dinner, the duo spent some time together. They watched the stars twinkle in the night sky as the moon cast its light on the lands. Light glimmered at the other peaks in the sect as well. Some of them were from disciples casting spells, some were from them flying, and some were only lighting up the night sky with their mana for fun. Despite the dazzling lights in his surroundings, Yang Ming had grown numb to them peewels. You had a good night's sleep. Reward, 10 days worth of cultivation. Xiang Ming was delighted by this notification. As usual, he chopped wood, fetched water, cleaned the courtyard, made breakfast, and went to the back of the mountain. It's time for the harvest. Jiang Ming was rather excited as he looked at the bent stalks of the paddy and the wheat. Once he harvested them, he would be rewarded. After a moment, he quickly suppressed his excitement. His junior sister was going to the Tower of Trials today, and as her senior brother, he had to be present. System, will I still receive rewards for persistence if I leave Chu Yang Peak? Aham's sub-B cribulous sids, for true's persistence if I leave Chu Yang Peak. So long as you stay and work during the day, you'll still be rewarded. Currently, the elders were still looking for Zuo Han's killers around the distant peaks. Alas, they were destined to fail in their quest. Who would ever suspect the culprit was just a key cultivation disciple? Jiang Ming patrolled his farm before he returned to the courtyard again. After he dealt with everything, he met up with Gu Hai and Linglong. I've already notified the sect master and the other first seats that Linglong will be challenging the Tower of Trials. We'll witness the birth of a rising star. Gu Hai was beside himself with excitement. He was clearly in high spirits. He chuckled as he continued to say, no one will say Chu Yang Peak is in decline now. I can beat all of them with just 2 disciples. Let's go, follow me. Gu Hai waved his sleeve as a gust of wind swept out and carried his 2 disciples with him as he flew. We can fly on our own, master, Jiang Ming said, feeling rather speechless. You're too slow. You won't be able to keep up, Gu Hai replied. You're just excited and can't wait to get started, right? Gu Hai laughed. Of course, I've been enduring for a long time and now I can finally hold my head up high. Why don't you recruit more disciples then? You've always avoided the disciple recruitment ceremony. What happened in the past, master? Don't ask too many questions. I'm the first disciple and I'm also an adult now. Moreover, junior sister will also soon become a gifted disciple of the sect. Let's talk about this later, Gu Hai said. A hint of loneliness could be heard in his voice. The Tower of Trials was located on Xianxia Peak. Two towers that vanished into the clouds could be seen from afar, and they glowed with a faint radiance. The 9-story tower was used by key cultivation and foundation establishment disciples, while the 12-story tower was prepared for core formation disciples. At this time, several first seats were gathered there. There were many disciples as well. All of them turned to look at Gu Hai in unison when he appeared. When Gu Hai landed, he cupped his fists together and said with a broad grin, "Greetings, Sect Master, everyone. Thank you for coming to bear witness. If it's for an exceptional disciple, I do it every day." Yan, the Sect Master, said with a smile. "You don't see a 10-year-old golden core cultivator every day after all. This is a first for Jiuyang Sect. Well done, Linglong." "Thank you, Sect Master," Linglong answered in a sweet voice. She did not seem nervous at all. The Sect Master nodded and looked at Jiang Ming. "You're doing great as well. You might be a bit too indifferent, but your perseverance is commendable." Jiang Ming thanked the Sect Master. At this time, most people's attention was focused on Linglong. Dongfang Li and Yue Qing could hardly believe that Linglong was a golden core cultivator. At her age, most people would only be starting on their cultivation journey. "I should try recruiting her to Jiang Peak." Yue Qing briefly entertained this thought as his eyes glinted. Since the others were hunting Zhuo Han's killer, they did not wait for long. After a short conversation, Linglong entered the 12-story Tower of Trials after Gu Hai gave her a few pieces of advice. "I wonder how many floors she'll be able to clear." Gu Hai was slightly nervous. "At least 9, Jiang Ming replied. At this moment, Yue, Jiuyang Peak's first seat, walked over. She was dressed like a middle-aged woman, and there were a few silver strands of hair on her head. However, her skin was supple and smooth. Her expression was usually as cold as ice, but when she walked over, the ice seemed to thaw, and her expression grew warmer. She said, "9? Do you know about the Tower of Trials' origin? Do you know how many cultivators made it past the 9th floor? Do you know how many made it to the 12th floor?" Indeed, Jiang Ming did not know much about the Tower of Trials. All he knew was that it was a place where disciples trained and were ranked. "You know he's lazy. He spends his day on the mountain, unwilling to venture out. He doesn't even want to cultivate now. I feel like giving him a kick or two whenever I see him," Gu Hai said as he glared at Jiang Ming. Jiang Ming looked at Gu Hai with an innocent expression. Yue looked at Gu Hai and said, "How can you do that? Everyone has their own path in life. There's no need to force things." Then she said to Jiang Ming, "The Tower of Trials is a mysterious. All he knew about it was that it was a place where disciples trained and got themselves ranked. You know that he's a lazy fellow. He spends his days cooped up on the mountain and never travels. He doesn't even want to cultivate now. I have the urge to give him a kick or two every now and then." Gu Hai shot Jiang Ming a glare. He responded with an innocent expression. "How could you do that? Everyone has their own allotted fate in life. There's no need to force things." First seat Yue gave Gu Hai a look before continuing. "The Tower of Trials is a mysterious artifact that we constantly maintained. It's the best place to test a disciple's courage and strength. The first 3 floors are meant for fake core disciples. The 3 floors after that are meant for real core disciples. The following 3 floors are meant for golden core disciples. Only peerless geniuses are able to make it to the final 3 floors. For the first 3 floors, the average fake core cultivators are only able to clear the first 2 floors. They have to stabilize their realm and master a powerful spell before they can clear the 3rd floor. In our sect, less than 10 fake core disciples have made it to the 3rd floor." Yue sighed after she finished speaking. "That's not a lot of people." Jiang Ming was taken aback by this. He was not overly wary of Yue since Gu Hai was rather friendly with Yue. In the past, Yue had also given him medicinal pills for cultivation. Yue nodded. "Even a peak golden core cultivator only has a slim chance of clearing the 9th floor. Based on the sect records, only 18 disciples had made it past the 9th floor." "What?" Jiang Ming was shocked. The fake core cultivators Yue mentioned earlier were those from the current generation, but there were countless golden core cultivators from the sect over the years. However, only 18 of them made it past the 9th floor. This was a pitiably low number. Only 3 cultivators made it past the 10th level. The sect master cleared the 10th floor. Shouyang Peak's first seat, Hao Chen, cleared the 11th floor, and only one person cleared all 12 floors, Yue said with a sigh. Alas, that person was not a Jiuyang Sect disciple. What? Yang Ming felt rather speechless. No one from Jiuyang Sect has cleared all 12 floors of the Tower of Trials. There are only 2 people from our sect who entered the final 3 floors. The person who cleared all 12 floors is... It seemed like the Tower of Trials was much more difficult than he had imagined. This is our shame. Yue sighed again. Do you know about the extreme state of the Golden Core realm? Jiang Ming nodded. I do. My master mentioned it before. You see, you can make it past the 9th floor if you're a peak Golden Core cultivation. a peerless genius with rich combat experience and a determined and unwavering spirit. However, the 10th floor is like the dividing line. It's almost impossible to make it past the 10th floor without entering the extreme Golden Core realm. I challenged the tower when I reached the Purple Mansion realm, but I didn't manage to clear all the floors of the Tower of Trials. No way, it's true. I wasn't the only one. Some of the elders couldn't even make it past the 11th floor when they were at the early Purple Mansion realm. It sounds very toughy. Then who made it past all 12 floors at the Golden Core realm? Where's he from? He's Jiuyang Sect's holy son. Jiuyang Sect. Realization dawned on Jiang Ming. Despite its ordinary name, Jiuyang Sect was the leading force in not only the eastern region but the entire world. The sect was even regarded by some as the mecca of the cultivation world. Needless to say, Jiuyang Sect was much powerful than Jiuyang Sect. In all sects, their most powerful disciples would be referred to as holy sons or holy daughters. Jiang Ming asked curiously, which stage of the extreme state was he in? The 5th extreme Golden Core realm, Yin Yu replied. He's really talented. He is. Do you admire him, Ming? Of course. Then why aren't you cultivating diligently? Is this the entire point of our conversation? I'm working hard, but I don't want to put all my efforts into cultivating. There are many things in life that are wonderful as well. I don't want to waste all my time cultivating in seclusion, Jiang Ming replied. With a profound cultivation base, you'll be able to live a long life. With that, you'll have all the time in the world to do what you like. But my talents are only mediocre, and my success is limited. I don't want to regret not using my time to the fullest if I fail in cultivation. I prefer to live each day happily while I cultivate. I might die of old age one day, but it's worth it as long as I can enjoy the beauty this world has to offer. Bless your soul, Yin Yue smiled faintly. It seems like you've thought things through, unlike someone I know. You can also come to me for advice if there's anything you don't understand about cultivation. If this old fart gives you a hard time in the future, you can come and find me. I'll let you join my peak. Gu Hai looked at the sky with great interest, pretending he did not hear Yin Yue's words. Thank you first seat Yin, Jiang Ming said. He was slightly surprised by Yin Yue's offer. Following that, they returned their attention to the Tower of Trials. Everyone was speculating how many floors Zi Linglong would be able to clear. Most people thought she would be able to safely make it past the 7th floor at least. After all, Huo Yun had cleared the 7th floor previously. The first floor of the Tower of Trials, a sign that read, "Pass through the dark corridor," hung above the stone doors. Zi Linglong looked ahead silently, wondering if she should restrain her strength. When he finally musters up enough courage to make a move, I'll surely be able to crush him easily. I'm growing stronger day by day after all. Those who dare to scheme against me are just seeking death. In this lifetime, I want to make a name for myself as soon as I can. I will protect my future and senior brother. Zi Linglong's determination far exceeded everyone's imaginations. She was already seriously planning for the future. Finally, Zi Linglong opened the stone doors and stepped inside. It was pitch black once the door closed. She was no different from a blind person at this time. The only sound she could hear was that of her beating heart. It seemed like some strange power was messing with her senses. Indeed, it would be difficult to make it through this without determination and willpower. Zi Linglong did not hesitate. She did not pause so much as a single step as she walked through the first floor. When she reached the 2nd floor, she saw a fake core wolf demon that she promptly killed with just a stab of her sword. She continued up the 3rd, 4th, and fight floors without stopping. Outside the Tower of Trials, the floors lit up accordingly as Zi Linglong made her way up. At this time, the 8th floor lit up. Upon seeing this, everyone, including the sect master, inhaled sharply. Soon after that, the 9th floor lit up. Even Jiang Ming was surprised by this. How did Linglong grow so powerful? Jiang Ming felt like scratching his head when he thought about this. Although he had the system, he was only at the 81st Extreme Golden Core realm. He could easily kill a Purple Mansion realm expert, but he was not sure if he could fight against a Dao Seed cultivator. Linglong, on the other hand, was only 10 years old. She was still a child. Although she had awakened her phoenix bloodline and was progressing swiftly in her cultivation, she had no combat experience. How did she manage to pass the 9th floor so quickly? Is she a transmigrator as well? Jiang Ming wondered inwardly. Jiang Ming quickly dismissed his thoughts. No transmigrator would willingly lower their heads to another person. Moreover, he felt Zi Linglong's dependence on him and her affections were genuine. Their relationship value in the human path records confirmed this as well. Was she reborn? However, that's unlikely as well. If Zi Linglong had been reborn, would their relationship value be so high? The value of 95 meant that she would lay down her life for him without any hesitation. It must be due to her phoenix bloodline, Jiang Ming concluded. Although he did not know much about the powers of bloodlines, he could make a few good guesses. The phoenix was a divine beast of legends. Demons had to bow before it. Hence he speculated that her strength and the domineering energy she emitted sometimes were all due to the phoenix bloodline. Moreover, she was adept at learning spells as well. She could master a spell almost as soon as she learned it. He attributed this to her bloodline as well. As expected of the legendary phoenix bloodline, it's on par with an immortal body, overlord body, or saint body, if not better. Currently, Linglong is still in the early stages of her awakening. When she progresses further, Yinmo said. Then, she paused to look at Gu Hai before she continued to say, Old Gu, my disciples are all females. Why don't you leave her to me? No matter how I see it, she'll improve faster with me as opposed to staying on Chu Yang Peak. No, absolutely not. Gu Hai shook his head vehemently. I brought her to my mountain when she was just a little child and raised her with great difficulty. How can I let you take her away? Do you have any conscience, Yinmo? How can you propose such a thing? Yinmo cocked an eyebrow. You raised her. Wasn't it Ming who raised her? Gu Hai coughed before he said, Anyway, no means no. Moreover, Linglong thinks of me as her father. She won't want to leave Jiuyang Peak. Yinmo nodded as she said, Alright, in that case I can be her mother. Gu Hai blushed and coughed to mask his embarrassment, swiftly turning away. Jiang Ming lowered his head and tried to suppress his laughter. First seat Yinmo is the only one who can handle this old geezer. I wonder if there was something between them in the past. At this time, the other first seats were stealing glances at them as well. Jiang Ming could see the envy in their eyes. After all, Linglong was a peerless talent who made it past the 9th floor when she was only 10 years old. They could not believe Gu Hai was so lucky to have obtained such a disciple. Fuck this. I raised and nurtured so many disciples, but how many of them ended up being so talented? Dongfang Li massaged his neck. When he heard the hushed conversations in his surroundings, he sulked. What's so great about this old fart? Damn it, I can't stand this. Meanwhile, Jiang Ming glanced at Yu Cheng. He saw Yu Cheng had a faint smile on his face. This sly and vicious fox. Although his junior brother is dead and his identity might be exposed, he doesn't seem nervous at all. Jiang Ming was naturally unaware that Yu Cheng was nearly frightened to death when he first learned that Zhu Han had been killed. After searching the sect and returning to Jiuyang Peak, he spent his night plagued with unease. At one point, he even briefly considered abandoning his post as first seat and fleeing. Fortunately, so far nothing had happened, so he felt slightly more at ease. Currently, despite his outer appearance, inwardly he still felt uneasy and flustered by the unexpected development. At this moment, the sect master suddenly said, Old Gu, why don't you let your disciple stay with me? I'll personally train her and I promise to give her all the resources the sect can provide. Sect master, you still can provide her with the sect's resources even if she doesn't stay by your side. With her strength and talent, she'll definitely be an exceptional disciple. In fact, according to sect rules, she must be given appropriate resources from the sect. Name your conditions, Old Gu.
Sect master, I raised her like my own daughter.
Gu Hai protested. She can gain more if she stays with me. She'll grow faster, develop her potential further, and reach greater heights in the future. If you treat her as your daughter, you should want the best for her. You never change, Yan Yan, you old prick. Old Gu, we're old now, but I can see the years did nothing to refine your language. Don't you feel embarrassed speaking like that in front of the young ones? For your disciples' sake and the sect's sake, you should hand her over to me. Old Gu, I promise to help you win junior sister Yinmo's heart if you agree to my request. Gu Hai choked briefly upon hearing these words. Fuck off. If I wanted to, well, I admit my cultivation base isn't the best, and she'll— What the fuck? I almost fell into your trap. Gu Hai was annoyed to no end. After a moment, he looked at Jiang Ming quietly before he finally said, I'll let Linglong decide for herself. Very good. I expected no less from you, Old Gu. You have the sect and your disciples' best interest at heart. You old prick. Let's make things clear first. You can't force her at all. If she says she doesn't want to join you, you can't withhold the resources she deserves. I'm not that kind of person. I propose this because I want to train her as one of my successors. If she stays on Chuyang Peak and ends up becoming the sect master, how many peaks do you think will acknowledge her? Dim, you old prick. You're powerful and scheming. I can never win against your reasoning. If only I can focus on my cultivation instead of dealing with all these messy affairs. However, I'm the sect master after all. I don't have a choice. Anyway, can you show me some respect? I'm the sect master, you know. What does it matter? We're communicating through voice transmissions right now. I have to curse at you. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep easily tonight. Okay, fine. Fuck, she just made it past the 10th floor. Yan Yan lost his cool when the 10th floor of the Tower of Trials lit up. Yan Yan was not the only one. The other first seats were shocked as well. For Ziling Long to pass the 10th floor, it meant that she possessed the combat strength of an extreme golden core cultivator when she was barely 11 years old. All of them looked at Gu Hai enviously. How can that old fart be so lucky? When Gu Hai recovered from his shock, a wide grin bloomed on his face. This feels fucking amazing. I can hold my fucking head high now. Gu Hai stroked his beard and fanned himself with his other hand. He could barely stop himself from doing a small celebratory dance. At this time Yu King walked over. Senior brother Gu, I didn't know you have such an extraordinary disciple. To think you kept it a secret for so long. She really shocked all of us today. She's really amazing for being able to clear the 10th floor. Very few people have her talent. However, there's one thing I'm curious about. Cultivation base alone isn't enough for her to pass the 9th and 10th floors. She would need to master powerful spells as well. However, she's only 10 years old. Where does she find time to learn spells between cultivating? The other first seat's eyes gleamed with curiosity upon hearing this question. They had been wondering about this matter as well. I've told you before, miss, she awakened her phoenix bloodline. She did it before your disciple Lingu Yin came to my peak to look for trouble 9 months ago. Her cultivation base reached the peak foundation establishment realm the morning of the awakening. That's how she defeated Linghu Yin, Gu Hai said with a cold smile. I've told the sect master about this a long time ago. I have her all the spiritual items I had accumulated. Fortunately, she didn't disappoint me. She's truly a peerless genius with her phoenix bloodline. Her cultivation base is improving by leaps and bounds, and she learns spells quickly. I know what you're trying to imply. You're trying to say she's possessed or is using clones, right? The sect master and I have already investigated this. There's nothing strange about Ling Long. I know it's hard for you to imagine that such a peerless genius with unimaginable powers could exist, but the truth is right in front of your eyes. Children of heaven, individuals with saint bodies, and even legendary reincarnations of immortals had appeared throughout history. Why is it so hard to believe that one of them is a Jiuyang Sect member? She has the Phoenix bloodline after all. Everyone, what do you think the demons will do when they find out about this? I plan to keep her condition a secret, but Linghu Yin, Jia and the others forced her to reveal her strength. Hence I had no choice but to let her come today and display her strength so the sect would better protect her. Gu Hai sneered at Yue Cheng after he finished speaking. Yan Yan nodded. He said helplessly, that's right, I knew about this. I wanted Linglong to grow without fanfare and disturbance as well. Alas, we're left with no choice but to do this now. Yu Cheng was inwardly shocked. He thought Zi Linglong was just a young genius, but he did not expect her to be a potential immortal on par with those who had saint bodies. He could not believe he did not notice this before. In the end, he only smiled awkwardly. Jia Guang deserves to die, Dongfeng Li said through gritted teeth. Then he cupped his fists together at Gu Hai and said, it was my mistake, senior brother Gu. To express how apologetic I feel, I'm willing to accept Linglong as my disciple. I'll nurture her with everything my peak has to offer. Dream on. Gu Hai scoffed. Jiang Ming remained silent as he listened to the exchanges. He found the entire thing strange. Jiuyang Sect seemed harmonious, but Jiang Ming knew there were undercurrents of tension under the surface. For example, Yang Peak and Gu Hai were no strangers to impeachments. The others wanted to remove him from his post of first seat. If it were not for the support from Jiuyang Peak, Chu Yang Peak's persistence, and the sect master's help, Gu Hai would have been removed from his post a long time ago. At this time, all the other first seats were trying to recruit Linglong to their sides. All of a sudden, the 11th floor lit up, causing everyone to gasp in shock. When they recovered from the shock, their eyes shone brightly. This was especially true for Hao Chen, the first seat of Shaoyang Peak. He was the youngest first seat, and when he cleared the 11th floor of the Tower of Trials back then, he had experienced an explosive growth. His cultivation base had skipped the Purple Mansion realm and the Dao Seed realm, directly rising to the nascent Soul realm. With that, he was on equal footing with the Sect Master. There were even rumors swirling around that he was in fact stronger than the Sect Master in terms of combat strength. Now that there was another remarkable disciple like Hao Chen, everyone naturally wished they could recruit her to their sides. On the other hand, Jiang Ming was not sure how many people in Jiuyang Sect were in the nascent Soul realm. In any case, he was shocked by Linglong's strength as well. He thought to himself happily, Linglong is really amazing. Not considering myself, she's definitely the most powerful disciple of our generation. In fact, she's likely second best in the entire history of the sect. Jiang Ming felt happy, proud, and satisfied as Linglong's senior brother. As he looked at the Tower of Trials, he wondered if she would successfully clear the 12th floor. Swoosh! The human path records appeared and flipped to Zi Linglong's page. Name Zi Linglong. Gender female. Cultivation base Golden Core realm. Background disciple of the Jiuyang Sect's Chu Yang Peak. Relationship 95. Status she has awakened the Phoenix bloodline, chased Linghu Yin away, cultivated intensively, and destroyed the cultivation bases of Jia Guang and Linghu Yin. Currently she's challenging the Tower of Trials. She has made it past the first floor, the second floor, the 11th floor. Zi Linglong was still at the Golden Core realm, and she had yet to enter the extreme state. Jiang Ming was rather shocked by this. Is the Phoenix bloodline so powerful? She can even challenge cultivators with higher cultivation bases. Their relationship value remained unchanged, and her status included what was happening now. At this moment, without any warning, a row of words suddenly appeared under her status. Use the Phoenix Bloodline spells to pass the 12th floor of the Tower of Trials. 12th floor of the Tower of Trials. Linglong frowned slightly as she stood before the stone doors. She knew she needed the strength of a 4th extreme golden core cultivation at least to make it past this floor. Apart from that, she needed a powerful spell as well. She knew many powerful spells, much more than what Jiuyang Sect knew. However, the spells she could use were limited since she could not use spells that were not from Jiuyang Peak. It was imperative she kept her knowledge a secret. Should I use my Sambodha? No, that'll attract too much attention and give everyone a heart attack. Linglong shook her head. She had powerful spells. She had more than the Jiuyang Sect had collectively. However, she could not use any other spells aside from those that Chu Yang Peak had. That was a power only wielded by Dao Seed cultivators. Some peerless geniuses could manage it, but she would not be able to avoid suspicion if she used it due to her age. Her mastery of spells could be explained away by her mind-blowing talent, high comprehension skills, and her Phoenix bloodline. However, if she used Sambodha, the others would definitely be unable to accept it. If she were in her 20s, she could get away with using some of her skills. As it was now, it was still too early for her to reveal her skills. I'll use some of the Phoenix bloodline power then. Linglong made up her mind before she opened the door and entered the 12th floor of the Tower of Trials. In just a blink of an eye, a bright red light flashed as a wave of terrifying energy swept out. Buzz. The Tower of Trials trembled slightly. It was as though it was having trouble withstanding the terrifying energy. Streaks of red light escaped the Tower of Trials and shone outside. They resonated with the fire element and the force of nature before forming the silhouette of a fire phoenix. What seemed like the faint cry of a phoenix rang in the air as well. The first seats were in shock and disbelief. A vision phoenix? Did she use her phoenix bloodline power? Although she's in the tower, it manifested outside. Yu Kang's eyes burned with greed as he instinctively clenched his hands. This isn't possible if all she had was a small trace of the Phoenix bloodline. Based on the power of the Phoenix she possesses, even if she's not the daughter of the Phoenix, she has to be a direct descendant of the Phoenix. She's likely the offspring of a human and a Phoenix who fell to the realms of men. If this is true, Yui Cheng felt his mouth go dry the more he thought about this matter. Meanwhile, Gu Hai was shaken as well. He looked at the stunned Gu Hai and said, "Old Gu, does she have any family members left?" Gu Hai shook his head when he regained his senses. "I was roaming the lands back then when I found her asleep at the foot of a mountain. When she woke up, the only thing she remembered was her name. I brought her with me and spent 10 days visiting various villages, towns, cities, but we couldn't find her family. In the end, I brought her back to the mountain with me. She activated it inside the tower, but it's manifesting outside." Jiang Peak's first seat, Yue Cheng, was initially shocked. Then a fervent desire filled his eyes. He was even clenching his fists without meaning to. This can't be achieved if all she had was a sliver of the Phoenix bloodline in her body. This means that the Phoenix power within her, even if she's not the Phoenix's daughter, she has to be a descendant of the Phoenix, the offspring of a human and a Phoenix which fell into the realms of men. If this is true, how strange, the sect master muttered to himself. Then, he continued to say with a grim tone, "I thought she merely possessed a trace of the Phoenix bloodline. However, I'm clearly wrong since she's able to create a vision outside of the tower. From today, I'll keep her safe by my side and carefully guide her." Gu Hai could only smile bitterly upon hearing these words. He knew this was the best choice. When word of this spread, many parties would try to get their hands on Linglong. Chu Yang Peak was in a state of decline, and Zhuo Han's death proved that the sect was not as safe as it used to be. In the end, he only nodded helplessly in response to Yan Yan's words. On the other hand, Jiang Ming was speechless and helpless when he heard this exchange. Was his junior sister going to be taken away? At this time, the 12th floor of the Tower of Trials lit up. Following that, a small figure shrouded by fire appeared at the top of the tower. Linglong had been transported to the top of the Tower of Trials after clearing all the floors. A smile could be seen on her face at this moment as she withdrew her energy. "Amazing," Jiang Ming murmured as he gave her 2 thumbs up. When Linglong flew down the tower and landed on the ground, she found herself surrounded by Gu Hai and the other first seats. All the first seats were smiling at her. "That's nice." Jiang Ming smiled faintly. When he looked around himself, he discovered the disciples in the surroundings were looking at Linglong enviously as well. After all, everyone knew now that she was Jiuyang Sect's new star. At this time, Momo walked over and said, amazed, "I didn't know Linglong was so powerful. She's only 10. I remember I used to carry her in my arms when she was younger. I can't believe she's grown so strong." Chunyang Peak's Xiang Junbao walked over as well. He was an outstanding and elegant person. A hint of disbelief could be seen on his face as he said, "I've been cultivating in seclusion over the past 3 years and have just emerged from it. It's really shocking to see the girl who used to pester me for snacks conquer the Tower of Trials." This is mind-blowing, senior brother Jiang. Jiang Ming greeted Jiang Junbao and cupped his fists together. Jiang Yunbao used to be a frequent visitor of Chu Yang Peak. He had said he liked how quiet the peak was. Back then he would bring snacks for Linglong whenever he visited. He had also snuck some wine over to share with Jiang Ming. When Gu Hai found out about it, he was given an earful. He was one of the few friends Jiang Ming had in Jiuyang Sect. "You've grown up well," Jiang Junbao said as he placed his arm around Jiang Ming's shoulders and winked at him. "Shall I introduce you to some of my junior sisters? It'll make Chu Yang Peak more lively, don't you think?" "If you're thinking of introducing someone to him, you'll have to get in line, senior brother Jiang," Momo said with a smile. "You don't know what type of girls he likes," Jiang Junbao said in a lowered voice. "Only a man understands another man." Momo scoffed before she said with a pout, "You men are all the same." Then she turned to look at Linglong. A hint of envy and some complex feelings could be seen in the depths of her eyes. Jiang Jimbao patted Jiang Ming's shoulder and said through voice transmission, "She's pretty good, she has a good personality, she's gentle and she gets along with your junior sister. Why don't you give her a chance? If you think she's so good, why don't you go after her?" Jiang Ming retorted. "I'm only interested in becoming an immortal. Women will only affect the speed of my cultivation and get in the way of my pursuit of longevity," Jiang Junbao said as he waved his sleeves and rested his hands on his back. Jiang Ming raised his chin slightly and said, "Your grandfather is looking this way." At this time, Jiang Ren, Chunyang Peak's first seat, was looking at the two boys. Jiang Junbao's lips twitched. Then he said to Jiang Ming before swiftly flying away, "Let's meet up for drinks when you're free." At the same time, Linglong walked toward Jiang Ming. She grabbed Jiang Ming's arm and shook it as she asked, "I was amazing, right, senior brother?" "Yes," Jiang Ming said sincerely. "With you around, I won't have to worry about people looking for trouble with me. They won't dare to do that," Linglong said confidently. Then she asked, hesitating slightly, "Senior brother, master and sect master told me to cultivate at Taiyang Peak's sun pit for now. The sect master has said that he'll impart the secrets of the sect to me as well. Do you think I should go?" "Of course," Jiang Ming said without any hesitation. But I don't want to leave you, senior brother. Listen to me. You should go. You can always return once you're done cultivating there, right?" "Okay, I'll come back as soon as I can." Linglong nodded. In the end, Linglong was brought away by Yan Yan. After Jiang Ming followed Gu Hai back to Chu Yang Peak, they sat down in the courtyard. Jiang Ming brewed a pot of tea and poured 2 cups of tea before he finally took a seat. Then he asked, "Master, will Linglong come back?" "She can come back if she wants," Gu Hai said with a bitter smile. He drained the tea in the cup in one go before he continued to say, "She's still young and fickle. The sect master will definitely treat her like a princess at Taiyang Peak. I'm afraid that anyway, we can't complain. Her talent has been exposed. She's comparable to a holy daughter with her talent. Someone might make a move on her. I won't be able to protect her if that happens. Zuo Han's death means that there's a flaw in our sect's defenses. For Linglong's sake and the sect's sake, we have to keep her safe. It's best for her to stay at the sect master's side." Although Gu Hai felt reluctant, there was nothing he could do. "I understand." Jiang Ming chuckled bitterly. "You should visit Taiyang Peak as well, master. Linglong has never been away from our peak before, so I'm afraid she'll have a hard time adapting to new surroundings. I don't doubt they won't spare any effort in training her, but I'm worried the young disciples might bully her out of jealousy. It's best if you visit more often to watch over her." "All right, I'll leave the peak to you." Gu Hai had already planned to do that as well. "I'll activate the protective grand formation on the peak. It'll warn you at least if something happens." The grand formation on Chu Yang Peak was a simple one. The formation was within the sect grounds after all. It would only produce illusions to confuse and trap intruders. After activating the formation, Gu Hai left. Yang Ming rocked the recliner slowly, feeling slightly lonely. He was never bored when his junior sister was by his side. Even when he was cultivating in seclusion, he did not feel alone knowing she was nearby. Now that she was not around, he discovered that he cared about her more than he had imagined. "It's not like we're never going to see each other again." Jiang Ming shook his head and cleared his mind. He sat cross-legged on the floor and closed his eyes to cultivate. He tried to break through to the Purple Mansion realm, but he ran into a wall. It was as though a huge mountain stood on his cultivation path. He knew this was normal. The higher one's cultivation base was, the harder it would be to break through. This stage was especially crucial to him. Advancing to the Purple Mansion realm from the Golden Core realm was stepping into a whole new world. Jiang Ming continued to will his golden core to push against the invisible wall in his sea of consciousness. Once he succeeded in breaking the wall, his sea of consciousness would transform into a divine sea, which was unique to the Purple Mansion realm. Jiang Ming continued circulating his ki with his golden core and pushed against his sea of consciousness. The wall seemed to stand between heaven and earth. The thickness of the wall corresponded with his achievements in the golden core realm. This was the reason he had a difficult time breaking through after reaching the 81st extreme golden core realm. It was too difficult, and he could only rely on sheer willpower and strength to break through. Rumble. When his golden core pushed against the invisible barrier again, it triggered endless surging waves. Alas, the barrier only shook without breaking. He continued trying a few times, but his attempts were all in vain. After a while, he decided to rest and focused on comprehending the great Akasa formless sword chi instead. Unfortunately, he could not calm down enough to do that. In the end, he opened his eyes and looked outside. The sun was slowly moving west. It was already late afternoon. I should go and harvest the crops. I wonder what rewards I'll obtain. Jiang Ming rose to his feet and leaped to the back of the mountain. At the back of the mountain, the paddy stalks bent low in the golden field. The oilseed rape was also waiting to be harvested. His vegetable farm was verdant and lush, but the medicinal field seemed rather sparse. This is the only world where paddy, wheat, and oilseed rape would mature at the same time. Jiang Ming spread his senses wide and determined that no one was spying on him. Then, he waved his hand and launched a wind blade across the field. The blade easily cut the stalks of the oilseed rape near their roots. He waved his hand again and the crops rose and flew into his hand. After shaking them vigorously, the seeds of the oilseed rape dropped to the ground. A gust of wind carried the seeds and the fallen leaves away. In just a short time, he collected 100 kilograms of oilseed rape. Since this was a spiritual strain, this yield was satisfactory. Subsequently, Jiang Ming joined his palms together. He manipulated his mana and squeezed the seeds like a compressor. Soon enough, droplets of oil emerged, and he collected them in a jade bottle. "This is really convenient," Jiang Ming exclaimed. In just a matter of minutes, he was done extracting the oil from the seeds. Cultivators truly make great farmers. The efficiency is 100 times better. Nitra de Shurunze, congratulations on harvesting 1 mu of oilseed rape and extracting oil from it. Reward, 20 years worth of cultivation and a human spiritual fruit. Human spiritual fruit, a rare fruit that helps focus one's mind and improves one's comprehension skills. Jiang Ming inhaled sharply. 20 years worth of cultivation was a huge reward in itself. He did not expect to be rewarded with something that would improve his comprehension skills as well. He did know something abstract and abstruse like comprehension skills could be improved. He clicked his tongue in wonder as he brought the fruit out without any hesitation. He took a bite of the fruit that was the size of a pigeon's egg. It's sweet. After he ate the fruit, he could feel a faint trickle of energy entering his mind. It was a rather refreshing feeling. It felt as though his thought process had been accelerated by at least 10 times. He exclaimed in shock, "This is amazing." Then Jiang Ming looked at the 3 mu of paddy and 3 mu of wheat with a burning gaze. However, he did not harvest them immediately. Instead, he sliced and diced the withered stalks of the oilseed rape and turned them into powder before scattering them across the fields as fertilizer. After that, he finally harvested the paddy and the wheat. He swiftly threshed them. In the end, they weighed about 600 kilograms. He could feed himself for a long time with this. Although the process was slightly more troublesome, it was nothing he could not handle. Congratulations on threshing 3 mu of spiritual paddy. Reward 60 years worth of cultivation and the special ability Great Akasa Steps. Congratulations on threshing 3 mu of spiritual wheat. Reward 60 years worth of cultivation and 5 enlightening tea leaves. Cultivation method, Grand Path, Almighty method, Sutra spell, 10,000 sword technique, cold breeze sword technique, timely spring rain, rolling earth dragon. Wood control special ability, Great Akasa formless sword chi, Great Akasa steps item, human path records, basic formation almanac, basic talisman almanac, noble robe flowing cloud sword, 5 enlightening tea leaves, 220 years of cultivation. Jiang Ming's condition remained largely unchanged. There were no obvious physical changes after he consumed the human spiritual fruit, but he could clearly sense the inner changes. Previously, he had accumulated 80 years of cultivation. Now that he obtained another 140 years of cultivation, he had more than 2 centuries worth of cultivation. It was a terrifying number. Apart from the 5 enlightening tea leaves, he also obtained the special ability Great Akasa Steps. Based on the name, it seemed to complement the Great Akasa formless sword chi. Should I try to break through now? Jiang Ming considered it for a moment before he dismissed that idea. It had been almost a year. When the time came, he would have amassed even more years of cultivation. At that time, he would be able to stabilize his cultivation base. Jiang Ming looked at the soil, but he did not till it. He had already harvested 7 mu of crops after all. Although he was not particularly tired, he wanted to rest. Jiang Ming returned to the rooftop and picked up the teapot. With a wave of his hand, a trickle of water flowed into the pot. Then, he placed the 3 leaves that his master had given him into the pot. After setting the teapot down on the table, he joined his palms together. With that, the water in the pot heated up swiftly. The sound of bubbling water rang faintly in the air soon after. After pouring himself a cup of tea, he lay back on the rattan chair. The The mountain breeze caressed his face as he watched the flowing clouds in the sky. The mountains in front of him seemed to be leading carefree lives in his eyes. It'd be nice if I have a few maidservants to give me a massage, Jiang Ming mumbled to himself. It'd be perfect if I have a cell phone and a projector as well. Jiang Ming sighed. Nothing was completely perfect in life. He took 2 sips from the teacup before he waved his hand. A book materialized in his hand, and he began to read it, Jiuyang Peak. After Yu Cheng returned to his peak, he went to his study immediately. His eyebrows were furrowed as he put his mind to work. Who killed junior brother Zuo Han? He was killed with a single strike. He couldn't even fight back or call for help. Just how powerful is his murderer? Since he went to Yang Peak, there are no elders around except for that fool Gu Hai. Which expert in the sect has a reason to kill him? Junior brother Zuo Han had always maintained a low profile, so he doesn't have any enemies in the sect. Was his identity exposed? However, if he was exposed, he should have been captured and interrogated. This is really giving me a headache. Yu Cheng massaged his temples. When he recalled Zi Linglong's performance today, he was filled with shock and disbelief again. She's a peerless cultivator. She's comparable to a god body or a saint body. If she's in the Qingyun sect, she'll be the holy daughter. She has an incomparably bright future. She's only turning 11, so her mind is still fickle. There'll be great benefits if I take her under my wings. How can I recruit her to my side? Yu Cheng began thinking of ways to recruit Zi Linglong. In the end, he decided to wait. This is a crucial time. It's better for me not to act for now. I should focus on investigating grand elders who cultivate sword techniques. With that, I'll be able to find out if any of them is the murderer. After a moment, Yu Cheng finally decided to stop thinking about these matters for now. The next day, on Jiuyang Peak, Zi Linglong had learned a lot about her phoenix bloodline from the sect master. She was also given books to read. They were about developing her bloodline power. She had asked to be brought to the Sun Pit after that. The Sun Pit was the source of a spiritual fountain. The experts of the sect gathered natural spiritual qi from the ley lines in the area using a grand formation. Then, they added various spiritual medicines to construct this divine spring. At this place, cultivators could speed up their cultivation and improve their bodily constitutions. It was a wondrous place. The reason Zi Linglong had decided to reveal her talent and strength was so she could come to this place. Linglong, you shouldn't rush when it comes to cultivation. You have great potential, but you're young. You need to gain more experience. Try to stay in the golden core realm a little longer and enter the extreme state. If you can reach the 5th or 6th extreme, it'll be extremely helpful in the future if you want to become an immortal or live a long life. The sect master advised Linglong tirelessly in an affable manner. Linglong listened to him and nodded like a chick pecking grain from the ground. Then she walked to the pit and sat down cross-legged before activating her cultivation method and triggering her phoenix bloodline. With that, flames began to surge around her as her body emitted a divine pressure. Her body quickly absorbed the nature fluid from the spring as a vortex began to form near her. What a speedy absorption rate! The sect master's eyes lit up when he saw this. Gu Hai asked worriedly, "Will she be okay?" "I'll be here if anything happens," the sect master said reassuringly. "Moreover, there are other elders here as well. We'll notice it immediately if something's amiss. Don't worry." Gu Hai could only nod. Then he asked again, "Will the spring dry up if she keeps this up?" "If she does that, I'll be incredibly happy," the sect master replied. However, he did not know that he could not laugh even if he wanted to when he saw what happened later. At night, Yang Ming was still on the rooftop. He watched the stars as he drank the tea he brewed. A gust of strong wind blew past the mountains, but it became a gentle and cooling breeze after it passed through the formation. It felt like he was being caressed. At this time, Jiang Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. "It's time. Congratulations on living on Chu Yang Peak for a year and carrying out at least one menial task each day. Reward, 100 years worth of cultivation, 10 enlightening tea leaves, 3 shadowless needles, and 5 enlightening stones." Yang Ming smiled when he heard the system notification. These are some generous rewards. 100 years of cultivation was incredibly precious after all. The 10 enlightening tea leaves were useful as well. Even the sect master would fight for something like this. Shadowless needle, invisible when used, can be used to kill a person discreetly. Cannot be reused. Comparable to a high-grade item, Jiang Ming inhaled sharply. Not even Gu Hai possessed something of this grade. He was certain Gu Hai, a first seat, only possessed 2 low-grade items. It's a pity that they're not reusable. However, they'll come in handy since they can kill discreetly. If I have no choice but to make a move in the future, I'll have another option available to me. Jiang Ming held the shadowless needles carefully in his hands after he brought them out. I should try and master how to use them first. It was not difficult to master how to use the needles. With the needles, he was confident about going against Dao Seed experts. He was certain he could even kill them. Not bad. Not bad at all. Jiang Ming was in a good mood as he brought out the enlightening stones. Enlightening stones, deal with her author. Harrigan, the user's mind will be one with nature. The user will be able to understand the workings of the world and gain insight into the world's laws. It only lasts for an hour. The effect was somewhat similar to being in a meditative state. He was happier to receive this compared to other items. It was like an enhanced version of the enlightening tea leaves. Did the system give me this because I'm too slow at learning spells and mastering special abilities? Jiang Ming wondered out loud as he rose to his feet and stretched his limbs. He raised his hands and grabbed at thin air, acting as though he had the universe in his hand. When I master the knowledge of the sun and moon cycles, I'll turn the sky into my farm. After saying that, he turned around and looked at the 10 mu of farmland with a smile on his face. He had a long road ahead of him to reach his objective. When Jiang Ming finally returned to his room, he sat down cross-legged on his bed. He knew it was now time for him to achieve a breakthrough. Jiang Ming activated his grand formation so that he would not be disturbed. Subsequently, he placed 2 enlightening tea leaves without swallowing them. The nature fluid trickled down his throat into his belly, refreshing his mind immediately. With that, he was incredibly focused as his brain began to process information at top speed. He cleared his head of distracting thoughts and began to cultivate the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra. After many trials, he had grown familiar with the sutra. He activated the cultivation method and brought his golden core to the 9-story pagoda, crossing the heaven and earth bridge and rammed it against the wall of his sea of consciousness. Rumble. It sounded as though it was thundering in his mind as he continued pushing against the wall of his sea of consciousness. Alas, the wall of his sea of consciousness barely shook. He was still some ways from breaking it. System. Extract 20 years of cultivation. Jiang Ming was not discouraged. With just a thought, a stream of many surged from his dantian. The mana was so pure that it seemed to have come from nature itself. It provided his golden core with a fresh surge of power as it attempted to break the wall again. The wall of his sea of consciousness shook again. Boom. With the sound of an explosion, cracks began to form on the wall. System. Extract 50 years of cultivation. Jiang Ming roared inwardly. His dantian grew, threatening to burst. He hurriedly used his Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra to control his mana. He quickly ingested the 2 leaves in his mouth to boost his mind. It helped him calm down and stabilize his mind. Again, Jiang Ming roared like a dragon. He was so focused at this moment that he was unaware that he had levitated. The air within a foot of him began to distort with ripples as he emitted a strange light. The terrifying force raged within a foot of him with the force of the mountains and roaring seas. If it were not for the system's concealing function, countless visions would have manifested around him, alerting the experts of Jiuyang Sect of his true ability. At this moment, there was 70 years worth of mana in his body. This was equivalent to the mana an ordinary cultivator would amass after cultivation for 3 or 4 centuries. The mana surged and crashed through the wall of his sea of consciousness like tens of thousands of warhorses galloping across a battlefield. It was truly a sight to behold. He knew he had reached a crucial stage. He did not proceed with caution. His sea of consciousness would shatter. If he were lucky, he would lose his mental faculties. If he was unlucky, he would die immediately. Usually, an elder would watch over a cultivator at this stage. However, Jiang Ming was not worried that no one was watching over him. After all, he had the enlightening tea leaves to clear his mind, focus his thoughts, and strengthen his will. Coupled with the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra, he firmly restrained the torrent of mana. After he broke the wall of his sea of consciousness, it resembled the world in its infancy where chaos and nothingness reigned supreme. However, in just a moment, a sudden and violent change occurred. Heaven and earth parted as things began to take form. His sea of consciousness expanded swiftly as it absorbed his mana. It was a swift and intense process. This was also a crucial part of the process. The moment of breakthrough to the Purple Mansion realm was an important moment for the sea of consciousness to expand. His foundation, potential, and energy would burst and help him to expand his sea of consciousness as well. If he stopped now, it would be difficult for him to expand his sea of consciousness in the future. It would be almost impossible to do so without a stroke of luck. At this time, Jiang Ming felt slightly nervous. He used the extreme states of the golden core to strengthen his foundation. He could not hold back now. After all, the expansion of his sea of consciousness would impact his future. As he maintained his cultivation method, his sea of consciousness continued to greedily absorb the mana to expand. Even his golden core dissolved in this space that emerged from the void. His mana would run dry soon. Ordinarily, a cultivator would ingest medicinal pills at a time like this to strengthen themselves. This was a perk of belonging to a major sect. However, Jiang Ming did not intend to rely on the pills. System. Extract 20 years of cultivation. With this, a surge of mana appeared in his sea of consciousness again. It was so vast that he could not tell which way was up or down, or left or right. All he could see was a grayness that stretched for eternity. The moment the surge of mana appeared, it was instantly distributed to the 4 corners and 8 poles. System. Extract 20 years of cultivation again. Jiang Ming's mind went into overdrive. He maintained his cultivation method as he kept an eye on the changes in his sea of consciousness. He noticed that as it expanded, it was spacious and wide here. He could not tell which way was up or down, or left or right. All he could see was a never-ending mass of gray. The moment the torrent of mana appeared, it was immediately distributed to the 4 corners and 8 poles. System, extract 20 years of mana again. Jiang Ming's mind went into overdrive. As he maintained his cultivation method, he kept an eye on the changes in his sea of consciousness. He noticed that as it expanded, origin element began to trickle into his body. At this moment, his body was experiencing dramatic changes as well. Toward the end, he channeled half of the torrent of mana into his body to intensify the changes in his body. Within his sea of consciousness, the nature of his mana was improving as well. It underwent a great change and sublimed, giving rise to a turbulent surge of mana. When dawn arrived, the eastern sky began to brighten. It did not take long for the sun to emerge and illuminate the lands. Jiang Ming left his room and went to the roof to look at the sun in the east. He stretched his arms and smiled, thinking about the bright future ahead of him. At this moment, he had an otherworldly air about him that seemed inviolable. He looked like an immortal who had descended to the mortal realm. He had finally broken through to the Purple Mansion realm and successfully expanded his sea of consciousness. With this, he was now set firmly on the path of longevity. Currently, I'd be able to obliterate the 81st Extreme Golden Core me with just a punch. This was not something he thought about on a whim after breaking through. It was an honest comparison. He did not know how powerful an 81st Extreme Golden Core cultivator was previously. All he knew was he was able to kill a veteran Purple Mansion cultivator with a single strike of his great Akasa formless sword key. He knew he could kill his master within a breath as well. One could only imagine how powerful, almost unreasonably so, he was now. It feels great to be so powerful. It feels better than a massage after soaking in a hot spring. Jiang Ming smiled. He inspected himself again. Now that he broke the wall of his sea of consciousness, it would be referred to as his divine sea, the sea of divine power, divine source, the source of divine power, or Purple Mansion, the abode of immortals. Usually, the expansion of a sea of consciousness was not very exaggerated. An ordinary sea of consciousness, which was the source of mana, the origin of the spirit, and the root of the soul, would have a diameter of 1 meter. If one sea of consciousness spanned 5 meters, one would be deemed as a rare genius. The 10 gifted children of Jiuyang Sect were distinguished by this. On the other hand, only core disciples of major sects or the sacred land would possess seas of consciousness with a diameter of 10 meters. If one wanted a sea of consciousness with a diameter of 20 meters or more, they would have to possess unique bloodlines, a god body, or a saint body. According to the records in the sect, the limit of the Purple Mansion was only 100 meters. Saying that, when Jiang Ming checked his sea of consciousness, he discovered it had a diameter of 10,000 meters. It's 100 times bigger than the recorded limit. That's just the diameter alone. What about its capacity? It's a sphere, so after a moment, Jiang Ming inhaled sharply. It's 1,000,000 times greater? Jiang Ming was in disbelief. I might have reached the 81st extreme of the Golden Core realm with the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra and have amassed profound strength. But isn't this too much? When he calmed down slightly, he activated his cultivation method. The spiritual key in his surroundings instantly surged into his body and his Purple Mansion, where it was converted into mana. It was so fast that he had to stop immediately. At this point, it seemed like it was more apt to refer to his mana as divine power. Jiang Ming did not trouble himself with this. They were just names, after all. Jiang Ming had noticed his body had been tempered until he was several times stronger than before. He clenched his hands into fists and heard a loud crack. He wanted to see how powerful he had gotten. Alas, in the end, he had no choice but to dismiss that idea since he could make too much of a commotion on the mountain. Finally, he turned and looked in the direction of Jiuyang Peak. His hands could not help but itch when he thought about Yu Cheng. He shook his head before he called up the system to check his information. He exclaimed in surprise, "I gained a new attribute. Name Xiangming Cultivation Base. Purple Mansion Realm. Cultivation Method. Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra Spell. 10,000 Sword Technique. Cold Breeze Sword Technique. Basic Formations. Basic Talisman Special Ability. Great Akasa Formless Sword Chi. Great Akasa Step. Innate Talent. Immortal, Primary Taoist Body Item, Human Path Records, 3 Shadowless Needles, High-Grade Artifact, Noble Robe Low-Grade Artifact, Flowing Cloud Sword Top-Grade Weapon, 13 Enlightening Tea Leaves High-Grade, 5 Enlightening Stones Rare. His cultivation base was now the Purple Mansion Realm. The basic spells were longer listed under the spells he mastered. In their places were formations and talismans. Since they were considered spells as well, he was not surprised. His special abilities remained unchanged. Finally, there was something new. Innate talent. It referred to the innate he possessed. I have the innate talent of an immortal now? Jiang Ming was surprised. Although he knew could be considered a genius, he was still an ordinary genius at best. Someone like him was not rare, let alone peerless. However, his current innate talent was a completely different story. This must have something to do with me cultivating the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra. As my cultivation base improved, my constitution changed as well. When I reached the Purple Mansion realm, I underwent a complete transformation overnight. The Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra can change a person's overall constitution. It's really amazing. Jiang Ming was shocked by his own inference. Not only did he possess an incredibly powerful body, but his mind was sharper than before as well. His perception of his surroundings had improved dramatically as well. All these changes were the results of his improved constitution and mind. With just a thought, Jiang Ming summoned the information of his innate talent. In the beginning, innate talent was ranked from 1 to 10 stars. 1 star was the lowest rank. Cultivation cultivators usually had this rank. On the other hand, those with 10 stars were usually at the 10th cultivation realm. Above this was the innate talent of an immortal. This indicated that the cultivator had the potential to become an immortal. Naturally, this was just a general guide. It probably did not apply to geniuses who defied reasons. Jiang Ming looked at his purple mansion, the foundation of his innate talent of an immortal again. His purple mansion had a diameter of 10,000 meters. It was now half filled with liquid mana. Half of the cultivation he had gathered was half gone. There were 2 stages in the purple mansion realm. The first was when one expanded one's sea of consciousness to the purple mansion, and the second was where one's mana took liquid form to fill the purple mansion. When the mana was filled to the brim, one would be considered to be at the peak of the purple mansion realm. Now, it was time for him to make preparations to break through to the Dao Seed realm. The Dao Seed referred to the seed of Taoism. A cultivator had to comprehend the character and Sambodha of all creations before forming their own Dao Seed. It was impossible to reach this realm just by amassing mana alone. It would be too difficult for a cultivator to reach this realm without contemplating the mysteries of the world that existed since the dawn of time. Many exceptionally gifted cultivators were stuck at this stage. Nevertheless, Jiang Ming was not worried. After all, he had the Enlightening Tea Leaves and the Enlightening Stone. The Enlightening Tea Leaf was ranked high grade according to the ranking system of spiritual medicine. Based on his knowledge, spiritual medicines were divided into low grade, middle grade, high grade, top grade, and medicine king. On the other hand, the Enlightening Stone was ranked rare. A rare item referred to special items found in the world. Due to their different effects, their values ranged considerably. For example, although a jadeite stone could be considered rare, its value was pitiably low. The value of an enlightening stone was comparable to a weapon. I have 13 enlightening tea leaves and 5 enlightening stones. I won't have a problem reaching the 5th realm of cultivation, the Dao Seed realm. Jiang Ming thought to himself as he enjoyed the morning scenery, feeling refreshed. He focused his gaze and could clearly see the energy in the surroundings. He could even see the outline of the barrier of the Grand Formation that protected the Jiuyang Sect. Is this one of the primary Taoist body's abilities? Jiang Ming wondered. When he had a better look, he could see the mountains were shrouded by wave-like energy. The energy seemed to be one with the sky and the ley lines. Jiang Ming was in awe. If he spent time carefully observing the mountains, he was confident about comprehending the immensity of the mountain's breadth, boundlessness, and majesty. Did I unknowingly awaken my Dharma eyes? Jiang Ming turned to the other side, looking at the verdant and lush forest. Dense vitality keys swirled between the trees under the sunlight. The trees and soil that depended on each other looked dazzling under the cast of the sun. Jiang Ming was amazed. Then, he turned his attention to the huge sun. He narrowed his eyes and saw a small, translucent sphere that shone down on the lands and all creations. He knew that those were photons. At this moment, the sun suddenly enlarged before his eyes, before his field vision was filled with a huge and boundless fireball that carried with it great pressure and the power to burn everything down. At this moment, he seemed to be capable of seeing various elements of fire, such as the sun's true fire, pure sun Sambodha, poison fire, and thunder fire, among others. It seemed to be the root and source of all fire. At this moment, Jiang Ming suddenly felt like his soul was on fire, as though it was threatening to reduce him to ashes. He hastily closed his eyes to calm down. As the source of civilization, the sun is really extraordinary. Jiang Ming heaved a long sigh. Then, he retracted his power. At this time, he had already formulated a plan in his mind. He was in a wonderful mood. My Dharma eyes and the grand path before me, I'll one day ascend to the heavens, Jiang Ming said to himself before he waved his sleeve and leaped off the rooftop. Jiang Ming went to the kitchen. He quickly made a simple but delicious meal. He made it a point to have breakfast every morning. Congratulations on making a delicious breakfast. Rewards 20 days worth of cultivation base. Cool. Jiang Ming was in a good mood. Without using his mana or special ability, he fetched water from the other side of the mountain, chopped wood, and cleaned the courtyard. He was rewarded for this with close to 3 months worth of cultivation. Then, he leaped up into the air and landed next to the pavilion on the rooftop. He looked at the farmland at the back of the mountain. He had yet to plow the land but decided to rest for now, even if he knew he would be rewarded for plowing the 7 mu of land. He suppressed the restlessness he felt from an unfinished task and lay on the chair. He murmured to himself, since I'm determined to live an ordinary life, I should strike a balance between work and rest. Then, he called up the Human Path records. Swoosh. He was not certain of its grade, but the Human Path records had gained a new function. The front page now had special markings as well.
Friends,
Anyone with a relationship value of 60 and above will be added to this page. Enemies. Anyone with a relationship value of -60 and below will be added to this page. This is a nice function. I'll be notified if someone is planning to harm me in the future. Interesting. Jiang Ming was delighted. However, this gives me déjà vu. It reminds me of QQ. When Jiang Ming flipped to the friends page, he saw more than 20 names. There were Sect Master Yan Yan, Zhang Junbao, Chang Yiming, and the others. Toward the end of the list, he saw Momo's name as well. Their relationship value had increased slightly to 63. Senior sister Momo is an interesting character. On the other hand, he had one enemy, Jia Guang of Jiuyang Peak. Their relationship value was now at -88. This meant that Jia Guang hated him to the bone. However, his cultivation base had already been destroyed. Hence, Yang Ming paid him no mind. Yang Ming also discovered Ling Hu Yin was no longer listed in the human path records. There was only one possibility for this. He was dead. After flipping through a few pages, Yang Ming arrived at Zi Linglong's face. A shocked expression quickly appeared on his face. Cultivation base, first extreme golden core realm background. Disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Chu Yang Peak. Relationship, 95 innate talent. 9 stars, elementary phoenix bloodline. Status, cultivating at the sun pit in Taiyang Peak. Produced the first Taoist motif on her golden core. Jiang Ming was delighted when he saw Zi Lilong's 9-star innate talent and elementary phoenix bloodline. He was not shocked by this. However, he was shocked that she was already at the first extreme golden core realm. It's only been a few short days, but she's already at the first extreme golden core realm. Why do I feel my junior sister is more powerful than I am? Jiang Ming scratched his head. He looked at his junior sister's innate talent and her cultivation base again. 9 stars in the first extreme golden core realm were not particularly difficult feats, but the speed at which she achieved these were truly terrifying. He shoved the thoughts to the back of his mind for now and flipped to the next page. Name Guhai Gender Male Cultivation Base. Purple Mansion Realm. His sea of consciousness broke and damaged his origin. He's doing his best to maintain his current realm background. First seat of Jiuyang Sect's Chu Yang Peak. Relationship, 85 innate talent, 8 stars status, protecting a disciple near Taiyang Peak's sun pit. So that's why Master is weak, his purple mansion is damaged. Jiang Ming froze briefly upon reading this. He knew something was wrong with his master, but he never knew what it was. He's lucky he's able to keep his current cultivation base considering his sea of consciousness broke. Jiang Ming frowned as he pondered on this matter. He thought about how he could help his master. Unfortunately, in his current state, there was not much he could do. How did he hurt himself? I've asked him a few times, but he never told me anything. I should ask Zhang Junbao about this. He should know. Gu Hai's innate talent was amazing. An 8-star innate talent meant he was just a level lower than Zi Linglong. It was a shame that he was affected by his injury. Jiang Ming could not help but smile when he saw their relationship value had increased by a few points. That old fart must feel bad for leaving me here to look after the peak while he's off taking care of Linglong, whose strength is skyrocketing. After putting the human path records away, he began to contemplate his future. However, soon after, he thought to himself, why should I think about my future now? I should stay here and watch the clouds in the sky. This is much better than living a life filled with battles. He drank another pot of tea and continued rocking on the chair. After a while, he finally decided to go downstairs. Since it was still early, he picked up his rake and went to the back of the mountain. He had 7 mu of farmland waiting to be tilled. This was part of his task as an ordinary person. When he arrived at the back of the mountain, he surveyed his farmland. After playing the rake on the ground, he raised his hand. A surge of mana shot out as he cast the Rolling Earth Dragon spell and quickly tilled a mu of land. He kept channeling his mana until he was satisfied. Then, with a wave of his hand, it began to drizzle. Farming like this is too easy. It even looks aesthetic. Congratulations on plowing 1 mu of farmland. Reward 6 months worth of cultivation. This is great. Jiang Ming was happy. He cast another round of spells, tilling the soil and watering it. However, he did not receive a notification from the system despite waiting for a long time. I knew it. There's no cheating the system, Jiang Ming thought to himself. However, he was not bothered by it. He felt more secure now that he was in the Purple Mansion realm, so he was ready to experiment. He walked toward another mu of farmland and began to till the land manually. With his strength, this task was nothing. If he were not careful with his strength now, he could shatter the mountain peak with just a stab of the rake. After a while, he stopped working and said, "Farmers who plow the land sure don't have it easy." He shook his head and cleared his mind of distracting thoughts before he continued to work the land. He intended to complete his task as quickly as possible. Soon enough, he was done with another mu of farmland. Congratulations on manually plowing 1 mu of farmland. Reward, 2 years worth of cultivation and a basic pills almanac. I knew it. If I carried out the tasks without using mana, the rewards would be greater. Whether he did it manually or used mana, the results would be the same. He wondered why the system encouraged him to work manually. After he pointed his middle finger at the sky, he extracted some of the cultivation he had been rewarded with. In turn, the liquid mana in his purple realm increased again. He absorbed the information in the basic pills almanac after that and decided to put the knowledge to use once his herbs were ready to be harvested. Continue. Jiang Ming picked up the rake and continued plowing the lands. All of a sudden, he saw a streak of light shooting over from a distance before landing on the greeting platform. Following that, a teasing voice rang in the air. First disciple Jiang, aren't you going to welcome your guest? Senior brother Chang, when did you return? Jiang Ming hastily looked for the token that controlled the peak's grand formation to deactivate it as he hurried over to greet the guest. A fat man stood on the greeting platform at this moment. He was smiling widely, making his round face look very amiable. He was Chang Yiming from Jiuyang Peak, and one of Jiang Ming's few friends. I returned yesterday, Chang Yiming replied. He looked at Jiang Ming appraisingly as he walked over before he remarked, Goodness, it's only been a year, but you've become even more handsome than I expected. If you were living in one of the mortal cities, the rich ladies would fight among themselves over you. Stop teasing me, Jiang Ming said. Then, he rubbed his hands together as he asked, Did you bring me anything to eat? When have I not brought you anything good to eat? Chang Yiming said. My junior brothers on Liaoyang Peak were talking about Linglong when I returned yesterday. She's barely 11 years old, but she actually cleared the Tower of Trials. I was almost shocked to death when I heard about it. I came here so early in the morning so I can ride on her coattails. You can ride mine, Jiang Ming said. Get lost. Chang Yiming rolled his eyes. You don't know what you're missing, Jiang Ming retorted with a smile. Swoosh! The human path records appeared and flipped open, displaying Chang Yiming's information. Name, Chang Yiming. Gender, male. Cultivation base, Golden Core Realm. Background, disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Liaoyang Peak. Relationship, 73. Innate talent, 7 stars. Status, at Chu Yang Peak. There was nothing noteworthy. Their relationship value indicated Chang Yiming considered him a good friend. Jiang Ming was satisfied with this. When Chang Yiming first came to Chu Yang Peak back then, he came to declare Liaoyang Peak's stance to support Gu Hai. As time passed, both of them grew closer due to their characters. After Jiang Ming led Chang Yiming to the courtyard, Chang Yiming brought plates of dishes from his storage ring and began to introduce them. This tricolor prawn is from the East Sea. It was a 9th stage Qi cultivation demon when I killed it. I asked someone to cook it for me. I knew you'd like it, so I brought it back. This multicolored golden pheasant is from a mountain city. It's steamed with a special sauce. Then, there's this honeyed lamb from Qingyang town. The stone table was filled to the brim in just a blink of an eye. Nice, senior brother Chang. The aroma that permeated the air whet Jiang Ming's appetite. He almost drooled as he looked at the dishes on the table. He had little to no resistance against delicious food. As the saying went, food and lust are natural to men. At this moment, a voice rang from the distant sky. Something smells amazing. Then, a streak of light flew toward them. Before the newcomer landed, he said with a smile, As soon as I smelled this aroma, I knew that the fatty is back. You brought good food and I brought good wine. If first disciple Jiang dances for us, it'd be perfect. Cultivation base, Golden Core Realm. Background, disciple of Jiuyang Sect's Chunyang Peak. Relationship, 76. Innate talent, 7 stars. Status, brought wine to Chuyang Peak. Still shocked by Linglong's feat of clearing the Tower of Trials, the newcomer was none other than Zhang Junbao. Chang Yiming laughed heartily as soon as he heard Zhang Junbao's words. Very good. First disciple Jiang, with your fair appearance, graceful poise, and refined manners, you'll definitely charm the world with your dance. Jiang Ming laughed as well. The trio traded banter and jokes as they ate. After setting down his cup of wine on the table, Jiang Ming asked, Senior brother Chang, how are things outside? Is it peaceful? That's right, tell us what's happening outside. Zhang Junbao chimed in. I've been cultivating in seclusion over the past 2 years, so I know nothing about current affairs. Did anything interesting happen? No, Chang Yiming replied. Just as always, the lives of the people in the secular world are the same, filled with greed and lust for power and riches. As for the cultivation world, nothing major happened as well. The young compete among themselves to eradicate demons and devils. However, I did hear something during my journey back. Chang Yiming deliberately trailed off, trying to create suspense. Hurry up and tell us. You're going to kill us with the suspense, senior brother Chang. Yang Ming said as he poured a cup of wine for Chang Jiming. Chang Jiming drank from the cup happily before he said in a grim tone, The devil sects are getting more and more active. The devil sects? Zhang Junbao frowned. We annihilated almost all of them back then, but they dare to show themselves again? Did they regroup? Who knows? Chang Yiming said with a sigh. Just be careful if you decide to leave the sect and cultivate outside. Jiang Ming asked curiously. Are devil sects really so terrifying? What do you think? In the past, they almost turned the world into a demonic domain, Chang Yiming said before he launched into an explanation. According to legends, the sky devils came to the world a long, long time ago. They were terrifyingly powerful and were near indestructible. They were a cruel, bloodthirsty, and warmongering bunch. Then, they founded the Sky Devil Sect and taught evil cultivation methods. Demons who cultivated those evil methods became half demon and half devil, while humans became half human and half devil. Over time, the Sky Devil Sect split into the Yinmo Sect, Yinmo Sect, Chu Yang Sect, Yinmo Sect, Yinmo Sect, and Yinmo Sect. The orthodox sects under the heavens tried several times to destroy the Sky Devil Sect, but the Sky Devil Sect retaliated and started a massacre across the lands. 1500 years ago, several major sects gathered and laid siege on the Devil Sect's base. With that, the major sects were under the assumption that most of the Devil Sects, if not all, had been eradicated. However, those who truly understood the Devil Sects knew it was near impossible to completely get rid of the devils. Even if they managed to get rid of the devils, their teachings would not go away. The teachings were like seeds that would sprout and grow. The devils are near indestructible? Jiang Ming asked skeptically. Who knows? Jiang Ming shrugged. Cultivators grow in number during peaceful times, giving rise to more sects and organizations. However, they grow complacent as well. This is why we need something to stir the peace sometimes, Zhang Junbao said. The ancient sacred lands seem to always be there, immovable. However, whether it's the major sects or minor sects, one or two will vanish, especially when there's an uprising of devils. Jiang Ming shuddered. The sacred lands sound terrifying. Not at all. Chang Yiming shook his head as he said with a smile, the sacred lands are noble, righteous, selfless, and radiant. Everyone aspires to join them. They're the strongest defense we have. Alright, enough of that, Zhang Junbao said, waving his hand. The sacred lands and the devil's sects are too far from us now. What's the use of talking about them now? What's important is to improve our strength and protect our sect. The trio toasted each other and continued picking at the dishes on the table. When they were almost done eating, Jiang Ming asked, Senior Brother Chang, Senior Brother Zhang, do you know what happened on Chu Yang Peak in the past? Why did my master stop recruiting disciples? I've tried asking other disciples, but they won't tell me anything. Chang Yiming and Zhang Junbao exchanged a look. Then, they both shook their heads with a wry smile on their faces. Jiang Ming, it's not our place to speak about this matter. You should hear it from your master. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ming no longer pressed for answers. At this time, Chang Yiming held his cup of wine and rose to his feet before he pointed at the back of the mountain. Did you develop the barren land there? Who else could it be? With Senior Gu's laziness, do you really think he'd do such a thing? Zhang Junbao said with a smile. What are you trying to do, Ming? Why aren't you spending your time cultivating instead? You're a first disciple. You represent Chu Yang Peak. You can come to me if you're short on medicinal pills or spiritual crystals. Hey, this kid here is likely richer than you. Chang Yuming laughed, causing his belly to shake, as he said, not only is he a first disciple, but he's also one of only 2 disciples on the peak. Senior Gu must have given him a lot of good stuff. After a pause, Chang Yuming said with a sigh, I don't know what's going on in your head. Senior Gu can provide you with one-on-one guidance and ample resources, but you refuse to take advantage of it. Moreover, there's no distraction here. Why won't you focus on your cultivation? I remember you used to cultivate diligently. Jiang Ming replied, I want to grow vegetables so I can serve them to both of you when you visit. Who are you trying to fool? Chang Yiming scoffed. Zhang Junbao merely shook his head. When he heard the rumors about Jiang Ming, he could hardly believe them himself. However, there was only so much he could say. Before they left, Jiang Ming requested them to bring him some seeds of spiritual herbs so that he could grow them. The 2 of them felt helpless, but they agreed anyway. With Zhang Junbao and Chang Yiming's departure, silence returned to Chu Yang Peak. The last rays of the sun clung to the sky, casting a fiery light on the lands. The evening wind began picking up, bringing with it a cooling sensation. Night gradually descended on the peak. After Jiang Ming activated the grand formation, he stood silently on his veranda before sitting down on the rush cushion. He decided to cultivate here tonight. He could use his Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra to absorb the natural spiritual ki from his surroundings and convert them to mana. But it was not efficient. It was the same if he used spiritual crystals. He crossed his legs and closed his eyes. His consciousness seemed to leave his mind and merge with the world around him. He experienced the changes in nature and contemplated the endless Sambodha within. If he could understand a fraction of it, he could form his own path. However, it was easier said than done. Jiang Ming decided to descend. He plunged down Chu Yang Peak where he experienced the immense, immovable, wonderful, and sustaining force of the mountain. His consciousness merged with the mountain. A rich, vast, awe-inspiring, majestic, and unshakable feeling filled him, helping him to break through slightly and touch the characters of Sambodha. However, they were rather vague and he had difficulty grasping their meaning. At this time, Jiang Ming placed a high-grade enlightening tea leaf in his mouth. His mind accelerated, almost instantly refreshed. The characters of the mountain filled his mind. At this moment he was enlightened. Is this Sambodha? Is this the path? Jiang Ming's figure seemed to have grown 1,000 feet in an instant. He became big, tall, and wide like a mountain. Jiang Ming stopped cultivating when it was late in the evening. He rose to his feet and looked at the starry sky with a strange expression on his face as he muttered to himself. It should have taken a cultivator decades or centuries to obtain their Sambodhas from contemplating the mysteries of heaven and earth. Even then, most full-fledged Purple Mansion cultivators can't even gain one Sambodha after cultivating their whole lives. However, in just a night, I obtained the Abundant Sambodha and the Suppression Sambodha. I wonder if it's due to my Taoist body being in sync with nature and the world, or it's due to the enlightening tea leaves. Jiang Ming naturally did not know the answers to these questions now, but he knew that he was extraordinarily powerful now. He had obtained 2 Sambodhas in just one night. No one would believe him if he told them about it. It was an inhuman feat. After obtaining a Sambodha, I can turn it into a Tao seed after my Purple Mansion is filled to the brim. With that, I'll directly progress to the Tao seed realm. Sambodhas vary in strength. A Sambodha can be turned into a Tao seed that will propel me to a higher realm even if its potentials and powers vary. Jiang Ming began to think about the Tao seed realm. At the Purple Mansion realm, cultivators would discover and develop their potential. At the Tao seed realm, they would be laying their foundations. There were not many records about the Tao seed realm in Chu Yang Peak's library. However, the ones available emphasized one thing: a cultivator could only cultivate one seed. If cultivators possessed multiple seeds, they risked their seeds conflicting with each other. Moreover, it would take a long time for cultivators to gain insight with multiple seeds, affecting their cultivation progress. Following that was a crucial point: the nascent soul realm. Cultivators would turn their Tao seeds into primal souls. If one had 2 seeds, did that mean one would have twin souls? However, it was stated one could only have one soul. However, the entire point of the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra is to let cultivators learn every cultivation method in the world and form an almighty Tao foundation. Jiang Ming continued mulling over this matter. He was in a dilemma. He had already gained Sambodha and could turn it into a Tao seed. All he needed to do was wait for his Purple Mansion to be filled before he could progress to the next realm and continue to raise his strength. However, this went against the intention of the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra. If he followed the Grand Path Almighty Method Sutra, he would have to master every cultivation method under the heavens and fuse them. Just thinking of this filled him with uncertainty. It was one thing to have unlimited potential or talent, but was it possible to master every cultivation method under the heavens? How much time would he need to achieve such a feat? What should he do if there were conflicts between his Tao seeds? Perhaps these problems could be solved, but he did not have anyone to guide him. He had to forge his own path. If he were to encounter a problem during the process, he would be in deep trouble. As Jiang Ming looked at the stars, he recalled a sentence he had liked in the past. I stand on both banks of the river of stars, holding the revolving sun and moon in my hands as I gaze into the boundless distance of the universe. Jiang Ming shook his head and cleared his mind of his doubts. Then, he tidied his robes before he sat on the recliner and leaned back. Jiang Ming slept outdoors in the pavilion on the rooftop. The starry sky was his blanket and the ground was his bed. Next day. The next day, after completing his morning chores, Jiang Ming went to the back of the mountain and plowed the remaining plots of land. He was not in a rush, so he took his time to think about what to plant next. The rice and wheat would last for a while, so it'd be a waste to grow them again, Jiang Ming muttered under his breath. After a moment, his eyes lit up as an idea appeared in his mind. I can make wine. With this, I won't be wasting any of my crops. Jiang Ming looked at the 2 mu of herbs. They were growing too slowly for his liking. He carefully inspected them and got rid of the pests he found. After he was done, he returned to his room and read a book as he drank tea. He was living the carefree life he wanted. In the afternoon, Jiang Ming brought his fishing rod to the lake on the other side of the mountain and began to fish. Congratulations on catching a fish. Reward: 3 days worth of cultivation. Foreigner his. Congratulations on catching a first-stage key cultivation crayfish. Reward: 30 days worth of cultivation. Time passed slowly. At night, Jiang Ming continued contemplating the mysteries of heaven and earth. A fortnight passed in just a blink of an eye. In the morning, on the rooftop, Jiang Ming saw 2 figures speeding toward him. Before they descended, a crisp and sweet voice rang in the air. Senior brother. Jiang Ming smiled. Ling Long, did you miss me? As soon as Ling Long descended, she rushed into Jiang Ming's arms. She hugged him tightly and rubbed her face against his chest. I did. I really miss you, senior brother. Jiang Ming smiled and ruffled her hair with a smile on his face. I'm glad you didn't forget about me. After Gu Hai landed next to his 2 disciples, he smiled as he stroked his beard. He seemed to be in high spirits. Yang Ming pulled away and held Ling Long's shoulders before he studied her. All right, let me see. Did you grow taller again? Indeed, Ling Long had grown taller. At this time, Gu Hai sighed loudly as he took a seat. Then, he poured himself a cup of tea from Jiang Ming's teapot before he said, some people are really heartless. Although their master is standing next to them, they won't even greet their master. Jiang Ming sighed as well before he nodded and said, that's right. Some people are really heartless. They can even leave a child alone to fend for themselves. Ling Long laughed when she heard her master and her senior brother's banter. Gu Hai rolled his eyes before he said, annoyed, you should respect your elders. Anyway, did anything happen while we were gone? Not really, Jiang Ming shook his head. Then, he asked, has Zuo Han's murderer been found? Let alone the murderer, we can't even find a single clue. We've searched the sect thrice but we couldn't find anything at all. It's really strange, Gu Hai said. I wonder if the murderer left after he killed Zuo Han. That seems to be the only possibility, Jiang Ming said with a nod. Then, he looked at Ling Long and asked, how are you? Did anyone give you a hard time over there? No, everyone treated me very well. The sect master wants me to become his disciple. However, since you're here, senior brother, this place is my home. I won't become his disciple, Ling Long said with a hint of disdain. He tried to entice me with weapons, artifacts, spiritual crystals, and medicinal pills, but I only rolled my eyes at him. When he kept pestering me, I told him that I'd stop cultivating there if he didn't stop. Then, Yang Ming asked, amused. Then he shut up, of course, Ling Long said, looking pleased with herself. I'm the only person who has cleared the Tower of Trials since the founding of the sect, so everyone in the sect wants me to join them. Several grand elders even came out of seclusion to reprimand the sect master for disturbing my cultivation. They also said that I'd be given all of the sect's resources. You should have seen the sect master's face. It turned pale and green. It was hilarious. Gu Hai laughed before he said in delight, he won't be able to take my disciple away from me. Ming, you really should have seen his expressions. Whenever I think about it, I think it can make me laugh for a year. By the way, keep a distance from that old fart Ling Long. If you have the chance, you should take advantage of him. Ling Long nodded and slyly said, all right, I'll get him to give me all the good stuff he has and give some of them to senior brother. Then, she continued to say excitedly, look, senior brother, I brought back some things for you. You'll need these key maintenance pills. There are also foundation establishment pills. You can lay your foundation after you reach the peak of the key cultivation realm. I also brought you high-grade spiritual items, spiritual liquid, and high-grade defensive tools. Warmth suffused Jiang Ming's heart as he watched as his junior sister produced items after items. He thought to himself, she's really the apple of my eye.